see. Let me make sure we're seeing. Yeah, I want to make sure I'm actually seeing something this time.
All right. Hi, everyone. Take two. I'm not sure what the difficulty was. The stream posted afterwards, but it wasn't showing up so I could converse with y'all in the chat. This is, again, our Avengers Infinity War live stream watch party with those two bald guys. Say hi again.
Hola.
Hello.
Hello there.
Awesome. All right. So let me make sure this is showing up, and then we'll press play.
Okay, yeah, I just started over too.
Okay, it works for me.
By your command, sir. Showing my old school roots there.
Okay. Looks like it. All right, looks like it's showing up now. All right, so make sure the chat comes up first, and then we'll press play. All right. Yeah, I don't know what the difficulty was, so let me pull the live chat, and then I will tweet this out. All right, so y'all ready to start over? Press play?
Let's do this.
All right, in 3, 2, 1, pressing play.
All right. All right, so there's that music. We get to listen to Ma be aggravating again.
Yeah, I never minded Ma.
No, I think he's brilliantly done. It's a compliment how annoying he is. I think it's perfect because the zeal the guy's got for the cause of Thanos is creepy and just it's just aggravating to hear that voice where he thinks that you should be happy you're gonna die. It just makes me want to punch him so hard. That's great. That's perfect.
Rejoice in your own death.
Right, exactly.
Rejoice in your impending doom there. Die with a smile on your face.
There we go. Yeah, I was not expecting this going in because after Ragnarok, I figured they'd get at least a breather, but they do not.
Nope, they went straight in.
Yeah, it kind of derails the whole ending of Ragnarok. So it's an interesting way to tell the story, but it works somehow. Hey, we got people in the chat.
All right.
Hello.
What is up, the almighty Chewbacca Cabra? Real comic stacks. Not much. We are at the what time are we at? We're at the 2:25 mark or so.
Oh, you're ahead of me. I better catch up.
No. You're fine. Yeah, when I switch back, I have to refresh. So.
All right, cool. I'm hitting 220 right now, so I don't know how out of sync we are.
Yeah, I'm about 30 seconds behind you, but I could fix that.
Okay, I'll back up. There we go. We should be about the same spot.
Okay, I'm at where Thor's getting drugged by Thanos.
Okay.
Yep.
You're just a tiny bit ahead.
Pretty much in sync with you.
I should be at the same spot now.
Yeah, I remember these lines being said in the trailer. You expect them to be farther in, where he's like, dread it, run from it. And it's like, oh god.
I thought that was like a yeah, you're right, like a third act speech when I first saw the trailer. It's like, oh, this is right off the bat, huh? We're going in full bore.
I love Loki and Thor's relationship here in this entire opening segment. There's so much subtlety going on between these two brothers. There's so much history behind their eyes and stuff. And at this point, they know each other so well, both good and bad. There's just so much going on between these two in this whole opening scene. I love it. And Hiddleston's amazing in this film, even though he's only in it for 5 seconds.
Yep.
Yeah, I love how Thanos. You know, it's funny. What I point out to people, you'll see better portrayed throughout the film, is that Thanos is not exactly a cruel guy.
Mm-hmm.
He only really he only hurts people that like ends people that are directly that have crossed him.
Yeah. And this whole, wiping out half the universe, he thinks that's compassion.
Yeah, one of my first videos I actually did about this topic of benevolence compared to like God in the Old Testament as a literary character.
Mm-hmm.
Such a good job with the lighting here. Like all the light coming from the Tesseract, coming from back behind Thanos from the opening in the ship. I mean, everything's just beautifully lit here. Even if most of it's probably done in a computer after the fact, it still looks great.
Yeah. Let's see. Real comic sex says I think we'll see the destruction of Xandar in Endgame. I think Xandar is where the Guardians are, right? With the Nova Corps.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so.
that sounds right.
I
haven't
think
watched
so
the
too.
Guardians films in a long time.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my son hooked on them because I think it's like the easiest for like a little kid to get into the Avengers series is show him Guardians with like Groot and Rocket.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I think you're onto something.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the first one. I liked both Guardians, but the second one to me, it seemed dumbed down. It had more kiddie humor, which is fine for the kids, like you said, that's perfect for them. But I prefer the way they were in the first Guardians and in this film as well. I feel like this is the natural extension from Guardians 1 instead of going down. I just felt with Guardians 2 for me, they kept undercutting the seriousness. Every time they do something where you're supposed to feel some emotional weight, they'd undercut it with a joke, and it just got really annoying. Whereas in Ragnarok, when they did that, it worked for me. And then in this film, there's not nearly as much humor, of course, but every time they do inject humor, it works. It doesn't take away. So that was my big problem with Guardians overall for the second one, even though I liked the story and stuff.
Yeah. See, I actually read the before this movie came out. I read the Silver Surfer that starts this journey, and then the Thanos quest, and then Infinity Gauntlet. And
okay, very cool.
Yeah, so Silver Surfer. So the scene where Heimdall sends Hulk to, ends up being Earth. One plot point is like, wait, why didn't he send Thor? He could have sent Thor with him, but you need Thor to stay there for someone to cross the Guardians. But with Hulk, they replaced Silver Surfer, who actually goes to Doctor Strange with Hulk, and I thought that was pretty clever with how they adapted what they have to make the story work. So it's like cool.
Shined a light on that for me. That was always a head scratcher for me. Like, why'd you send Hulk?
Yeah, they had to plug someone into Cena. Otherwise, if it wasn't Hulk or Thor, you would have had to rope in Guardians and would have slowed down the story because it's such a long movie already. So you would have had to add like another 15 minutes to like get to that point with if he did Quill going back to Earth for the first time.
That's true. So, do we ever get a clear explanation as to the whereabouts of Valkyrie in this? Am I like the only one in the dark and everyone else knows? Or
from what I understand, they did a Q&A to kind of explain some stuff that was unclear. So, like, the way it shows up when Hulk pops in, it's like we have a Hulk and then he attacks and they have that fight. Apparently, he was already fighting, and then it was just like well timed. But he was already fighting, I guess, other people, the Chitauri, I guess, on the ship. Because you see the Chitauri soldiers at Thanos' ship when they're later on when they're interrogating Nebula. But
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so she's supposed to be somewhere else, and I guess they had escape pods when this event's going down. So 25% of the ship of the remaining, was it Valhalla? Is that it? Or no, Asgardians. So yeah, like essentially, Thanos wipes out half of whoever he comes in contact with. And so they wiped out half, and then he did the snap, so it wiped out another half of that half. So there's only 25% of the remaining Asgardians left. And so Valkyrie's supposed to be with them, and she's supposed to come back in Endgame, from what I understand. But I don't think she's going to get that much of a showing in Endgame.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'll be
just
kind of
assumed she probably escaped or maybe helped lead the escape. Probably knowing that character, she probably had a hand in getting everybody off the ship, perhaps.
yeah.
And she's just no longer there, basically. But yeah, I don't think you were missing anything, guys.
Yeah, this scene
Okay.
where he snaps Loki's neck. How did that make you feel? Like you're 5 minutes in, it's like, holy
Yeah.
shit.
I was like, this is getting shit. It just got real. That's how I was like, wow,
Yeah,
they're not
I
messing
like the
around.
line, no resurrections this time, because I'm assuming that's telling the audience he's really dead this time. I still don't 100% believe he's not coming back ever, but he probably isn't. But it's kind of a situation where if he did show up, I wouldn't be shocked. But that line was good to throw in there just to kind of, I guess, cement it, even for people who want to keep believing it anyway, like me.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy actually, because from what I understood, Tom Hiddleston was done after this Avengers, unless he comes in four, which is kind of I think filmed together like Lord of the Rings,
Mm-hmm.
but they gave him more time to like develop little details with like CGI and whatnot. But yeah, it's funny because he's doing the Loki prequel show, so. Because he's supposed to be like 1,000 years old, so he's got all this mischief he's done throughout his life. So I guess he likes that Marvel paycheck. Maybe he
Yeah.
doesn't feel secure with his. That's what I've been saying about Tom Holland, is that he hasn't done enough outside of voice work to solidify a career outside of Marvel. So I think Sony really has him by the balls going forward and can dictate the Spider-Man contract with Marvel more to their favor, especially with Venom working so well without anyone else really.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Um, Interesting thing, I watched this. I think it was Emergency Awesome doing his breakdown of this scene where you come to New York in the trailer, where it's like the camera's spinning to put it in perspective. It's supposed to be like a sign of like power shift, and it's like, man, that's so cool. Like such a subtle little thing to resemble, to signify so much. Now we're here with Hulk crashing into the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yeah, he just hit the stairs for me right now. I was really excited to see Strange again. I'm glad Wong got a part in this too, because I really like him as an actor and the character's really fun. I just want more Doctor Strange because I think Cumberbatch was born to play this role. He's just amazing in the role. I can't wait for more. So this was really cool to see him have a pretty large role in this film. I was not expecting that, so that was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, Doctor Strange. I was really the first time I saw it was like, oh wow, that's cool. The second time, it's like, oh yeah, whatever. One thing with Doctor Strange, when we get further, I was surprised there wasn't some sort of Dormammu type effect. Like I don't know why he didn't. I guess he saw the 14 million of possibilities, but
Yeah.
you would have thought he would have put some spell with the time stone to like keep recycling. I like how even plugging in people like Wong and Pepper Potts, they get like 5 minutes in the movie, but it's like it's effective. So
Yes, it is.
I had the opposite reaction to Doctor Strange, so that's interesting. I did like it quite a bit the first time, but then on repeat viewings, I just like it more and more every time. But we're all different.
yeah, I was really underwhelmed. So like him having such a big effect in the fight later on, I was like, ooh, that was, did not see that coming. That was great. And apparently they had like I think 10 minutes more of footage they wanted to do, but they had to cut it down to like pick and choose what needs to be on film. Honestly, though, I think the crowd would have been totally fine sitting there for another 10 minutes for
I think so
a stretched out fight.
I wanted another half hour. I'll be honest with you. I was like, let's keep going.
And I really love the Black Order, so I could have used more of them, especially Proxima Midnight and Corvus relationship and stuff. I would have really preferred just a little more of them, but I understand why that got cut out. But I'm wondering if we'll get Lady Death or anything eventually.
It's funny.
That'll be interesting to find out.
It's funny to say that because the Thanos quest really hints at like his devotion to death, to Mistress Death, and I was expecting, because of reading that right around the time, I think a little after Ragnarok, I thought they would have brought Hela back because they made her the goddess of death, which I think is not how she is in the comics. Or I might be confused with the actual religion of like Asatru and stuff, Odinism, but I thought they were going to retool her to be Mistress Death, given I think I think Thanos has courted Hela before. I'm not certain, but I think that's
Right.
been a character he's courted in the comics. So I was
Well,
really
when we went to get the Soul Stone, I thought we were going to get Lady Death was going to show up there, but instead we got Red Skull, which was fine. It works. I'm glad we got back to Red Skull because I always wondered what the heck happened to him. But I figured we were going to get her then, but apparently not.
Ricky said hashtag lesbians.
Yeah, I was wondering. Yeah, I was gonna see if Rookie wanted to join us, but he said he's too damn tired, so I guess that's not gonna happen. Oh well.
Yeah, we had that long stream to start the day, so
You're just trucking through today, then.
So
Okay, she'd actually try to resurrect him in the current Guardians of the Galaxy storyline. Interesting.
yeah, if it wasn't for SJW Marvel, I would probably read that because Angela, I have, she's from Spawn. They bought her for some reason for the
Right.
comics, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, she's really hot as a figure for the Marvel Legends. So I just had to have that, and it'd be cool to see her. But I don't know what's going to go on with the Guardians. And seeing that new Brightburn trailer, I didn't know about the first one, but seeing that new one, I'm like, this looks awesome. Besides James Gunn making a movie with a kid, like it's questionable.
Yeah, I know, right? Is that the right move? Too soon?
I love this face-off between Tony and Strange here. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
have going on.
well, I love how he's like he stretches and he's like, "Did you really just say hitherto and undreamt of?" He's like, "Did you really just touch
that?" Yeah, I love that. I'm going to allow that. Yeah.
I mean, dude, Strange. I would not want to fuck with Strange. You know, in reality, given his power set, he's kind of It's kind of cool how they. Other people I think are pissed at like Hulk, especially in this movie where it's like Hulk just gets stronger and stronger the more you piss him off, and it's like,
right,
you got to check it though, because otherwise you get a Superman character, and it's like, okay, this it's like the whole light speed Holdo maneuver. Now that that's there, why aren't they doing it every time now? Any time going forward. Same thing with Hulk. If you actually made his comic character on the complete on the movies, it would be like, why is there even a fight? Kind of like Justice League. Justice League did that with Superman, where it's like, why do you need any of these other six?
Yeah, I think they dealt with Hulk and Banner really well as far as the excuse to why he can't become Hulk. It all feels very organic to the story. It doesn't feel like you were just saying like, oh crap, he's going to be too powerful. We better do something to stop that. It feels like this is probably what would have happened to him after Ragnarok and then fighting Thanos and being beat like that. All of that combined, I think naturally just led up to this being very plausible. So I thought they handled that situation very well.
Yeah, and another thing too with this, it's funny rewatching it because it's like there's a lot of pauses, but like it's a weird movie because there's lots of pauses as far as action, but there's always something going on for the story, and the way they mesh that, where it's like this scene where you're interacting, getting some information, some exposition, character interaction, but then like it's 5 minutes and boom, more action, and
yeah.
Well, a lot of that's editing and stuff too, but I keep meaning to look up the two writers for this movie more because I don't recognize their names, so I don't know what else they've written, but I really want to find out because the way they I thought Joss Whedon and company did a great job handling all the characters in the very first Avengers. They did such a good job balancing them. I think this is that times like 10. They did so well balancing everything, all these hundreds of billions of characters that got going on. And I just find that really, really compelling how they're able to do that. So, of course, some of that's directing, acting, editing, blah, blah, blah. But the story has to be there or it's never going to work. And so these writers, yeah, I definitely want to check out what else they've done. I don't know if you guys know off the top of your heads or anything.
I'm not certain, but I remember I just watched something recently with Feige talking about Marvel and Endgame and how essentially the whole list of characters that, go away. For the most part, that list was already predetermined years ago. I think the only thing that really changed was getting Spider-Man for the series. I think that's the only thing that they had to kind of work around. Like, do we want to do this or not? And
Right.
It's weird
And they
too
originally
because.
had. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no. I was just gonna say. Oh, here's Stan Lee. He's like, well, you never saw a spaceship before.
Yeah.
That was the most clever way to sneak him into this movie because it's like most of the movie is not on Earth or in New York. So
Yeah, I know how else
Right.
you're gonna do it. You know.
I love when one where he's out in space though. Isn't that in Ragnarok? We're sitting on the moon, and it's like he's telling or a moon, not our moon, but a moon, and it's like he's the storyteller. I can't remember his name. I think it's supposed to mimic a character in the comics, if I remember right. But yeah, that one
Well,
was great.
yeah,
Stan Lee, I thought Stan Lee was the one that cut Thor's hair. Or
yeah,
am I,
yeah. I think
Yeah,
I
are we
think,
talking
I
about
think
the
Jay's
same guy?
mixing two different things up, but yeah,
yeah, I
I
think
think
I might be. I just remember him sitting on a planet talking to the elders or whatever it is.
I think it's the
Hmm.
Watchers.
Yeah, I'm mixing up Green Lantern. I think a little bit there.
What's cool about this scene here, where they're about to face off with Maw, and I don't know who this other guy is. Is it Stone Obsidian or something like that?
Um,
Yeah, Cole Obsidian. They renamed him. He's Black Dwarf in the comics.
But yeah, this scene here when you get Iron Man walking up in a minute with the
yeah.
nanotech,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
gets me excited for my idea, um, especially with the Spider-Man home or Far From Home trailer dropping. I think Downey Jr. is going to have this compromised contract where he keeps playing Stark, but he's retired as Iron Man, so you get little cameos of him through the series going forward, where it's like, hey, here's $10 million, just pop in for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and he'll be like this kind of Emperor or Batman Beyond character to kind of orchestrate stuff and keep it going. Um, Especially with his helping Spider-Man with the Iron Spider, and so I'm really excited. One of the things I'm excited for with the Wakanda interaction is Shuri and Iron Man creating new armor for both characters, or for Iron Spider going forward.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
with the whole
Yeah.
nanotech, it's like, because she kind of has that already with at least Panther's helmet when he's before he had to take it off, and now he can just like do his claws and it's like boom, his helmet's on.
Hmm.
That was one of my favorite moments that we just passed. You're embarrassing me in front of the Wizards. I freaking love
Yeah,
that.
that was dope.
It's so good. Come on, man.
Uh,
You're embarrassing me in front of the Wizards. Stop it. That's great.
yeah, like
Oh, I
this
was
is
gonna say earlier with Spider-Man. I remember this just came back to me, but I remember the time the plan was to have Black Panther play a much more prominent role in Civil War until they got Spider-Man. I don't know if you remember that. Then they delayed it a little bit, like just a couple months or something like that. They had to reshoot or whatever. And then and I was really bummed because I wanted to see Black Panther on screen. I'd been really excited about it. And so when I heard his part was going to be diminished, I was like, that's a bummer. But it is for Spider-Man. So, but they ended up balancing that very well, I thought. I got just enough Black Panther to make me want to see his solo movie when it came out. And then we got just enough Spider-Man for the same. So that
Hmm.
was really cool. But it would have been interesting to see how it would have played out without Spider-Man for sure.
yeah. It's funny. Civil War, they paired up the teams really smartly. They had like
Yes.
Black Panther versus Winter Soldier because he thinks that's who killed his dad. You
Yeah.
got Ant-Man versus Spider-Man. You got the two bug guys. You got Vision
Right.
versus Scarlet Witch. Of course, Iron Man versus uh, America. Then I'm trying to think who War Machine faced off again. I think Falcon. So they paired them very well for like their power sets, and then Black Widow with Hawkeye, where it's like, hey, let's just throw the two humans together because who else are they gonna fight?
Right. Yeah. It's almost like if it was like a WWE thing. Everyone had a storyline to go off of.
um, yeah, the drop in like you see in the car get cut in half when Strange drops Banner down through the I don't know what you call it, the vortex or whatever, to a different part of town. It's like, why didn't he do that to Thanos? Just cut his hand off, when he only got 3 stones. You can teleport it anywhere.
True. Yeah.
This
I
is
mean,
a
I guess,
good
I
point.
guess, I guess they say that like, well, Thanos has the Reality Stone, so he can like break any spell that Strange is trying to do in that regard. But you can argue it. It's like, they wrote it to fit this narrative, but
Of course.
I buy it overall. But it's at least an initial. Hey, that's a plot hole. But this interaction here, where he's taking Strange, he burns his hand. This is why I think they're doing something different. But this is why I thought Strange is somehow alive, at least as a soul or something. Maybe not in the Soul Stone, like I think they're hinting at, but somehow he's still metaphysically tied to the Time Stone, because he says like, "Oh, it's a simple spell, but quite hard to break." Things like try breaking a dead man's spell, and so I'm like, even if you kill him, quote unquote, he's somehow tied to the stone, and maybe just needs like some Gandalf time to like come back somehow. But I don't think they're actually doing that. So if it's not Ant-Man in the Quantum Realm, it's going to be Goose the Cat. That's going to be the savior.
Goose the Cat.
Yeah, I cannot wait for that to happen.
Let me check in the chat again. Jesse,
yeah, somebody saying what's up to you. Oh, there's Obi-Wan.
All right.
Hey, Obi-Wan reviews. What's up? Anybody
hey, what's
else
up,
I
Adam?
said hello to? Hey.
Ask a classy black man. I've never seen you before. Hello. Yeah, we're watching it right now. We're doing the watch party. We're watching on Netflix. See, we're at the interaction where Doctor Strange is getting taken up into the donut.
Yeah, I'm just realizing, why did I type the time and not just say it? We're at about the 25-minute mark right now or so. Yeah.
Real Comic Stack says in-game is going to be the Italian Job meets Back to the Future. Yeah, it sounds like the potential spoilers I read over. It sounds like they're going to do something wacky. I trust them so far, especially the Russos, but it sounds like you're really, this plot, just reading it, sounds like you're really stretching the believability, even for people like Strange and Thanos and stuff.
Yeah, I'll wait. I mean, I'm going to wait till I see it to judge, of course, but I do trust the Russos. My problem is I don't think I trust anybody else around them, though. That's the problem. Yeah. So I'm wondering what's going to seep into Endgame here, and I'm just hoping, because they've had, some great films made for Marvel now, that they're just going to let them do what they want to do. I hope that's the case. I really do.
Yeah, fingers crossed, man. I completely agree with that sentiment.
Man, how cool is it? I remember, so I love the bullshitters. That's how I got into the Phantom Menace, is following them.
Okay, yeah, I like them too.
And I love, I've always liked Spider-Man from the first two movies, and I liked the third one when it came out as a kid, before I realized, criticism. And it's funny, he kind of reaffirmed my love of Spider-Man unknowingly, where it's like, I've always loved Spider-Man, but he's just reconfirming that I've kind of lost or forgotten. And he was like, yeah, I don't care about Iron Spider. They did that once in I think a cartoon or something, so it's not that big a deal. But I don't know. I like how they've kind of that's why I think he's going to inherit Stark Industries, if not Tony just being the Batman Beyond Bruce Wayne character, because of how they've given him these suits.
Yeah, Obi-Wan says there should be a way to display a timer so you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, there. I've seen Odin, for example, display a timer. I'm sure there's an app or something you can use to do that.
Yeah, I'm in my infancy. This is my first watch party, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, this was all apologize for that. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah,
you had this idea 4 hours ago or something?
Yeah, I was watching. I was the only guy in the theater watching the Fighting with My Family, which was amazing. I'm going to do at least a couple videos on that.
Okay.
I was blown away, and I was looking at the box office on Wikipedia, and it's not even doubled its budget. And I'm like, what's, especially at Captain Marvel when they're talking about women and stuff. And God, I can't wait to talk about that movie. But yeah, I like how they bring in the Guardians here.
Yeah, the song too, just perfect.
Yes.
Just the mood. It's like you're in a Guardians movie all of a sudden, but it's not jarring at the same time. It's just, I don't know, it's just so well done.
Yeah, this is what happens.
Sing it, Drax. That's probably my favorite.
Because he hates music and dancing.
Oh, another thing about Drax too, I just remembered that bugged me so much about Guardians 2, is that he seemed to completely forget that he's his whole fuel to his fire is he hates Thanos. And I understand Thanos isn't in that movie, but he's not really in Guardians 1 either, not really. And so he's got all that anger pinned up for his family being killed, and then all of a sudden it's gone in Guardians 2. And then it's kind of back again this time, and not to the forefront, and it shouldn't be. but it still feels like it's part of his character again. And for me, it felt like that just was completely excised from his character in the second Guardians, and that bugged me too.
It's funny you're saying it because I actually had this idea written down, but I haven't like plotted out everyone. I was going to do 5, but I think there's too many characters to actually do a 5-piece video where it's like the top 5 to who should kill Thanos. I forgot all about Drax because they kind of glossed over it after the first one. But I think they made that because you got the whoever that villain was in the first Guardians. He's like Ronan, yeah, he's tied with Thanos directly for like doing this for Thanos or getting the a power exchange to do some work for Thanos. So I think that's why they made it at forefront. And they kind of glossed over it in 2 because you had Ego as like the real meat and potatoes of the story.
I will say that intro to Guardians 2 is genius. It's the best part of the film, I think. When they're fighting a big monster and they got the music and the way the camera zooms in on people and then comes out and you got little Groot running around. I thought that was probably my favorite intro until maybe Infinity War of all the MCU films. I thought it was great.
I like how they wrote in fat jokes on Quill.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's awesome.
Because he got so, I didn't realize it, but he was so fit in the first Guardians.
Yeah, he was shredded.
And he slacked off.
Yeah, he had come off of gaining some weight for Parks and Rec. He kind of let himself go a bit, and then when he got that job, he really leaned himself up. And then, yeah, he's gained a little back here, but it's not like he's nowhere near what he was before Guardians 1, not even close. So he's gained a little bit of weight, but he's still in pretty good shape, I think. But yeah, I thought the jokes were great. I also like the Jesus joke too, because it's kind of meta, where yeah. Jesus. I thought that was great that they had him say that line specifically. That was awesome.
Yeah, because I didn't know till afterwards that he's like a big Christian.
And that's not by coincidence that he had that line. I mean, I can't believe it is. I just can't.
Well, realizing that, I always felt rewatching it like, is this sacrilegious? Like, I'm an atheist, so I don't care anymore. But it's just like concern, understanding the people's apprehensiveness with stuff like that, to say the least. So I was like, ooh, I wonder how people took. I thought there might have been some backlash for that line, but there wasn't. So I guess people felt it was a good joke.
I can only speak for myself because I'm very much Christian, and I thought it was hysterical. I thought it was great. So, but I don't get offended at anything. So I don't know. Some people do.
Yeah, and I like what they do here with Thor. They kind of, like I talked about, where I didn't really care about Captain America before seeing that meme where it kind of points out the key points of his life, where he loses this, he loses a friend, he loses a love interest, and this and that. And he keeps losing everything. And it's like they wrapped it up with Thor so well, and they reflected on Groot or Rocket. Yeah, and reading that Captain Marvel comic, I'm actually excited for Goose to interact with Rocket because he's got that whole aversion to Flurkins from the get-go. So, and it's just cute furry animals.
I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and say I don't have a problem with Captain Marvel in concept. I think the character, as far as the getting her in the Captain Marvel suit instead of being Miss Marvel. Okay, you want to move from Miss Marvel? That's fine. I'm down. And I like where the idea to take the character went. I don't mind that at all. It's just then when you actually go to write the story from that premise, it seems like nobody at Marvel has any idea what the hell they're doing. That's where it all falls apart for me. I have no problem with the concept of Captain Marvel at all. They ruined it. They don't know how to do it right.
I like that. He's like, you're imitating the God Man. It's
weird. Yeah, I don't know whose face off is more funny, this or Tony and Strange. I don't know, but this is hysterical. This whole where he's trying to imitate him, and my voice is always like this. What are you talking about? That's great.
This is my voice.
Yeah.
No, I like how they written the dialogue where it's like they get invested in these petty things, and it's like, hey, there's a big picture here. We got to fight Thanos. It's like, oh yeah. I'm gonna be right back, guys. Got to pour me a glass of rye.
All right. Now's our time, man. We gotta talk some crap about Angus while he's not listening.
Oh yeah.
I do like seeing how Rocket Raccoon and Quill are still, after all this time, kind of fighting over who's really in charge. I'm glad that hasn't gone away.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I completely forgot about that dynamic. It's like you
Yeah,
said, I'm
it's
with you. I haven't.
fair.
It's been a while since I watched any of the Guardians films, so yeah, I completely forgot about all that. And actually, until you brought it up, but yeah,
I really
you're
hope Guardians 3 turns out well after all the up and downs we had the last year or so, because I really want to see Adam Warlock. And
yes, I'd love to see Adam Warlock. Totally agree.
yeah, I really hope we get that.
Yeah, they teased him in what Guardians 2 with the Ilea or whatever
Yeah,
Oh,
character.
was it two?
Yeah, yeah. At the
yeah,
end,
it was
the
in
gold
two,
people.
two.
Oh yeah. You're right. That's right. I forgot. It's been forever since I've seen those movies.
But yeah, I
Yeah,
was really looking forward to that. And I don't care. Use the script. I think they should use the script because I think where he was taking it would have probably been a good place. I don't actually care who directs it though. If he comes back, whatever. I know that's probably not going to happen, but I honestly don't care at this point. I just hope we get a good Guardians 3 after the turmoil. That's all I really care about. I think
yeah,
it's fine for someone else to come in and direct it. It does not have to be Gunn for it to work, in my opinion.
yeah. My thing with Gunn, I have no problem with edgy humor. It's the fact that you pair this humor that's long running with produce like PG porn and stuff that he's done with like Sasha Grey and whatnot, which is funny
Mm.
on its own. You pair that with like consistent jokes and behind the scenes stuff with underage jokes, and then he had this friend knowingly after the fact still in contact with a convicted sex offender to some degree, and it was more than just, oh, I got caught peeing by a school or something. It was like
Yeah,
legitimate. I think he was the guy got caught trying to engage with minors. Something to that effect. So it's cumulative. It's not just, oh, he made like pedo jokes or
yeah,
something.
I agree.
And
It's
so
definitely creepy. There's something there. It's very odd. So I'm not saying I want him to come back for those reasons. I honestly don't. But I'm just saying as far as it having to be Gunn to direct it or it won't be any good, that mentality, I'm not on board with that at all. I think anybody that knows how to direct, at least an action film or whatever, they can get the right person to come in, and I think they can use his script most likely, or just massage the script up a bit and fix it and change whatever they want. But that was my main point: is I don't need Gunn to make it work. I think I just want a good movie to come out.
yeah, there's two reasons I support Disney with the gun thing. One, they say they're a family company, and two, they just canned Roseanne earlier last year because of like a knee jerk reaction with the whole tweet thing. And so it's like, well, if you do one who is conservative, you got to
Yeah,
do, I think, more drastic because he's a director and uh, he has a reach with these products to kids. So eventually people are going to find that kids might find this stuff. Looking up Guardians Galaxy stuff.
right.
It's not a good association for the company umbrella. But yeah, more so the Roseanne thing, where it's like if you do one, you got to do the other. I think more so with
Yeah,
because of the perception. It's like you fire someone for a supposed racist joke, but then you don't fire the pedo joke guy with pedo
Yeah.
right.
themed parties and stuff. Like,
There just needs to be consistency. That's all. If you're
Mm-hmm.
going to stand by a
Absolutely.
principle of we don't allow that with our company, that's fine. That's what your prerogative to do that. But you need to be consistent and fair across the board, whatever that
Yeah,
policy
you're
is.
right.
That's
Because
all.
without consistency, there is no principle.
hey, what is up, Desert Mauve? Sorry if I missed you earlier. Catching up on the chat. Teresa Martin, hello. Wow, we got 7 people watching with us. This is awesome. We're at the part where, let me see, where Vision and Scarlet are in Ireland, and they're about to get attacked by the, what do you call the group that works for Thanos?
Black Order.
Black Order, Black
Yeah.
Order.
So yeah. Corvus Glaive just stabbed Vision in the back. So that's just
Dude,
that's where we're at.
repeat viewings, because I saw this 4 times in theaters, and I was excited for every beat, but this beat still caught me off guard. Like they filmed this in a really creepy way, just like sudden. It's an
Yeah.
effective jump scare that is it's effective repeatedly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can't dispute that at all. And just the way this is lit, it's almost lit like a horror movie right now. It's very different. I mean, I understand it's at nighttime, and by default, it's going to look a little creepier. But there's nobody on the streets. It's just the two of them. It's just this little pocket. Nobody even realizes it's happening. It is kind of filmed a bit like a horror movie, just a bit.
Yeah, rewatching this and kind of noting that that gets me excited for Marvel to do a rated R Ghost Rider or Blade.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. I'd love to see. Actually, I like to see him Ghost Rider. I think more than Blade for me.
Yeah, because Blades had a more even excluding 3, Blades had a more satisfying creation on screen, even though it wasn't like the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Ghost Rider, I like the first Ghost Rider, but repeat viewing as like a critical mind, I'm like,
it doesn't get. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't get better.
I like Nick Cage as the character, but it's just I don't know. It's too similar to like how Fantastic Four the duology is. I like the duology. I actually just bought Fantastic Four because I like it enough to buy like a 50-cent DVD at the store. But
which Fantastic Four are we talking about?
Oh, the like the 03 or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I liked the second Fantastic Four quite a bit. I didn't think it was a great movie or anything, but I thought it was entertaining and vastly superior to the first one. And I liked Silver Surfer, which was cool.
Yeah, the Silver Surfer was like when they even the first one when they started doing Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
They said like just like if we started this like 3 months ago, we wouldn't have had the tech to make his flame look convincing. So it was like a perfect timing to start doing that. And it's kind of funny Chris Evans was in that too. But
yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I love Proxima Midnight. I know this is like a newer take on her from what I've tried to look up like comic images. But yeah, it just looks great. Her voice works. She's got like this I don't know, I like odd female characters. Like one of my favorite as far as attractiveness to me type of creatures is the Kaminoans from Star Wars. So, Proxima's a lot more humanoid than those. So I really dig it with the horns and stuff.
Yeah, they did a good job with her because she does definitely hearken to the more traditional design, but at the same time, it's different enough. I mean, she does look quite different, but it's not so different that you're like, wait, which character is this? She does still look like Proxima Midnight. They did a really good job with all these characters. I miss that there's no super giant though, because that's probably my favorite member of the Black Order, and she's not in it. So I hope she shows up eventually, but I'm not counting on it.
I haven't even actually watched Blade 3 as an adult. I remember I watched Blade as a kid. My dad would let me get rated R movies all the time at Hastings or Blockbuster, besides if it was like sex-based rated R. So I was exposed pretty early to creepy shit like Alien and Spawn and Blade and whatnot. I always thought Blade was cool. I never saw him as like, oh, it's a black vampire because I was too young, but yeah. I think there's always a soft spot for cool black characters because my dad is black and I grew up with my mom mostly. So
who is this Blade you're talking about? I thought Black Panther was the first black superhero movie. What are you talking about?
I know. What are you talking about?
Dude, whenever you get time, especially
there's only Black Panther and Wakanda. What are you speaking of?
Whenever you have the time, Des, you got to check out my Black Panther video because of the social significance supposedly to that movie. I eviscerate it just for like the plot you get from 2 movies, not even counting Infinity War or the first Avenger, because Wakanda's like hinted at with the shield. But it's really only those 2 movies that actually engage at all with like him as a plot line. But yeah.
Okay. What's the video called? Is it just Black Panther? Or?
Yeah, it's from like December on my playlist. So just go back a couple months and you'll see it's like Black Panther and the Lack of Empowerment or something like that. I use history, a couple of key points in recent history to indict his character and the culture and the country.
I see. I kind of get where you're going with this. I kind of want to check it out now.
Yeah, and I did some research too. Not deep, but I did enough research where it's like, hey, you want to talk about like the thing I hate about Black Panther. not to get sidetracked too much from a film. The thing I hate about Black Panther is that there's this culture behind it, loving it, that pushes for like this reparations mentality. And it's like, you do realize that there's like a Hatfields and McCoy's societal like feud in West African countries of like your family name can say whether you're a slave or your family was slaves, or if they were the people selling their people to the Atlantic trade, and they still have like social divides off those names. So it's like, you talk about reparations. If you're hating whitey in America because my great great grandpa had a slave or something, you also got to indict the black people in Africa.
But then how's that gonna work? That's not good for PR.
But yeah, not to get too sidetracked. I like this scene here with Thanos and the Chitauri attacking, because I like how they show it, them in effect in a different place outside of the Avengers event where they're coming through the portal. And this whole simple understanding of how Thanos looks at the universe of balance, and it's like I like how they took one little thing, which was really him talking with Silver Surfer about wiping out half the population, whatever, and being merciful, and they made it his whole motive. Because I thought Hela was going to be Mistress Death, retooled for the story, and I didn't want another like Bane type story of like some guy just likes some chick, so he's going to give her some grand gesture. So it's a very meta argument, and regardless if you like his motives or not, or think they're effective or that they're flawed, which they are, the argument that he could just make more resources, that's stupid, because no one learns from handouts. That's his whole thing. He's I guess in a way you could say he's an extreme conservative in the sense of like economics, where it's like, no, you don't give people more, you make them appreciate what they have.
Yep, agreed.
Totally agree with you. I gotta say, you do learn from handouts. You just don't learn the right shit. You learn not to try.
Right. That's a good point.
You learn the wrong lessons. But yeah, I completely agree with the spirit of what you're saying. Absolutely.
Grass says black people didn't exist before Black Panther.
I know, right?
I love Grass. I think he's a newer sub, if I'm not mistaken.
That's great.
He's been a good follower thus far. My last few Captain Tomato videos. I appreciate all of y'all. Appreciate Exaggeration Nation, of course. Yesterday. Go back to that stream later, people, and donate to Drunk 3PO's PayPal, because we got him $170 for his orphanage goal. They need like $1,000 more to finish the first phase of that El Salvador orphanage. Help some brown kids as opposed to sending some white girls to see Captain Marvel and padding Brie Larson's pocket.
Exactly. There was something. Where did it go? There was something really funny in the chat I wanted to point out. Oh yeah, Death by Saber said before Black Panther there was Action Jackson. I thought that was great because we were just
there was Action Jackson.
Yeah, we did. If you check, I'm gonna do a shameless plug here. If you check out our episode from 2 weeks ago, episode 9, Rocky, we talk about action. We bring up Action Jackson. I thought we're the only ones that remembered Action Jackson.
I've never seen that, but I'm always up to. I go to the library, and so I'm always trying to watch old stuff, and for free if I can.
Yeah, I saw that when it first came out on video back in the day, back when we were renting stuff from Blockbuster and whatnot back then.
Mm-hmm.
Good times.
I remember, I think I was like 7 or 8, and that's the first time I saw boob on film. And I was juiced. This is the best movie ever.
Oh, that's some other mentions of good movies here. Boys in the Hood.
Oh, yeah, that's a good
Shaft. Yeah, Shaft, the original. There you go.
Yeah, I haven't seen Shaft 1 or 2, but I like the music. Was it Isaac Hayes?
Aren't they doing a new one?
Yeah, it's like his son and him.
Yeah, his son. I know I saw something about that.
Yeah, I watched Rant's reaction, and part of it I'm like, this could work. It's so self-aware it might work, but I'm like, there's like little hints of like social justice stuff, but then like he gets hit, so it's like hit her back, like it's like
yeah, exactly. That's where the self-awareness stuff comes in. So,
but Jesse, not Kazam. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Des.
I wouldn't really
Jesse's
say
throwing
anything
out
important.
Kazam. Not
Whichever
Kazam, man.
whichever way it goes with the like abusive women angle in that movie, whether it's like, hey, she hit her back,
Mhm.
or oh, you never do this, and it's like some grand Me Too lesson or something, it's going to get shit on one way or the other.
That's a good point. You're probably right. It's unfortunate where we are with this kind of stuff, but
Especially
yeah,
like, this is a plague of the black community and this and that. And it's like, well, if you had fathers
truthful.
in the home, like quit incentivizing single moms in the black community.
This was all good stuff where Quill's trying to be the commander and, do this, you go left, you go right, and no one cares.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I really like how they made Mantis an actual key part of this group in this movie, as opposed to when she gets introduced in the last one, it's like, haha, she's like the funny bug Asian.
The bug Asian.
I love later when they're trying to get the gauntlet off of him that each person, their powers are being used. I thought that was a really good way to show everyone at their best and doing what they can do, and that includes Mantis. She was a big part of that, obviously. So, yeah, I agree. It's good to
like
see
the
her
main
fleshed
part.
out a bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's funny because not everyone is equally powered. Without his suit, Iron Man is just some rich guy. Spider-Man just has webs for the most part.
You could say the same thing about Quill. Without his tech, he's got to rely on his wits. That's basically his role in that particular scene.
But I think they kind of have a problem there where they introduce him with Ego as being a son of like some like celestial, so he's got like this god ability, and so it's like, how's it going to play out if they keep the Guardians going? But no, I like this whole. I love this whole psych out right here where it's like,
yeah,
oh, bro.
the collector.
It's like it fades away. You hear his overtone monologue, and it's like, oh, daughter.
Yep. Kraskras says Quill acts like a boy among men. Even Spider-Man looks cooler. I like that though. I like that he's immature because Tony's immature too, but in a different way. So they're not. Every character feels a little different from each other, even if they share some characteristics. And I like that Quill doesn't command that respect because he is kind of a boyish. He's never really grown up. So yeah, I think it works.
Yeah.
Good point though.
Yeah, and Quill too is the victim of a fatherless home.
That is true. Parentless, really.
He had Yondu and he had Taserface.
Taser, okay. Yeah, Taserface. That was good stuff.
I wish I'd have had a Taserface. That'd have been awesome.
Dude, it's funny. I don't know if you noticed, but I saw No Country for Old Men when I was like 15 when it came out or so, and I hated it. It was boring as fuck. And I worked at a DVD store for almost exactly a year, and I got all these, downloads for Vudu. And I had No Country for Old Men, and I started working security, so I'm like, hey, I'll watch whatever is on my thing, just knock them out. And I watched No Country, and I was like, dear God, I was like, something's here. And then I watched like breakdowns of the movie, and then I read like philosophy papers about the movie, and I was just like, this is so deep. There's like a philosophical quote-unquote religion of dudism for Big Lebowski, which is another Coen Brothers movie, and I think there's something with like nihilism with No Country for Old Men. So for Josh Brolin to go from one of the stereotype heroes in that film to being a nihilist film to being the quintessential character portrayed through CGI in this one, it's very meta to me, and I love it.
Yeah, Josh Brolin has gone through quite the arc here, because before that he was a Goonie.
I haven't seen the Goonies since I was like in grade school, so I don't even know.
It's so good. It still holds up so well, I think. But I haven't watched it since I've seen him as Thanos, so I'm looking forward to watching it with Thanos in mind. That'll be kind of fun.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Actually, that's kind of funny to me.
See, I like this. See, like he could have just dusted Quill right there, and he's like, "Hey, you know what? Let's see your willpower." And he tests him. And he's like, "Oh, okay." I like this guy, and the fact he like bubbles his freaking gun.
Mm-hmm.
He does it again later. The bubbles or the butterflies. Grace Randolph watched her thing about it, and she's like, bubbles, and he's kind of a nice guy. And it's like, I don't know if they just did that because they're Disney or something, or if they just like thought it'd be kind of show Thanos has like a little silly side to him.
I'm sorry, man. Were you asking me a question? I was reading chat there. I kind of zoned for a second.
No,
I'll
no,
be hanging if
saying it was funny about Thanos and the bubbles, butterflies.
Oh yeah. I like that. That was good. The thing with the reality stone, though, I mean, it's a movie, of course, so I forgive it. But if you have the reality stone, you could just fool everybody at every second, all the time. So you wouldn't need to fight anybody, really, if you really think about it.
Ooh.
You could just, you know. So I thought about that watching this. Is he going to use the reality stone more? But I like how they do kind of showcase. They try to anyway showcase the powers of each stone a little bit. So as a movie, it works to do it that way. But if this was all real, like, yeah, come on now. Just
it's funny.
Stone, you're good.
It's funny you say that because I know y'all have done pretty much all the DCEU besides Aquaman. You got coming out next 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, that's the next one.
It's funny because I love the DC animated movies. Besides maybe like the first like for like the adult animated films. There's one, I think it's Justice League Doom, and it's someone ends up stealing like Batman's plans of like contingencies for every character. And one of them for Wonder Woman is that you just exhaust her fighting all these like cheetah clones in her head. Like nothing's there, so she's like hurting random civilians, but in her head she's fighting cheetah incessantly. And it's like, you're onto something there, dude. Like he could have just like set up reality at nowhere and just had him fighting him eternally if he wanted.
Yeah.
And then like, he could have done it to the whole freaking world.
Yeah.
And just snuck up behind Vision, like sent his head off. That's the problem, though. Yeah, like when you get these crazy idea comics on film, there's gonna be some sort of way to pick it apart. So I'm all for criticism, but at some point there has to be like, you either gotta just accept this crazy fantasy. I don't know. It's kind of meta actually. It's kind of because comics are kind of like American mythology, and mythology is kind of based off religions that are now dead and just largely accepted for like their literary contributions. And you can kind of see the same thing in a big way with like say Christianity or something, where it's like you can pick it apart, but at some point you just got to buy into it or not. And so it's kind of cool thinking about that with comic movies.
Yeah, you do. It's entertainment, so you have to give it some leeway. I mean, any movie, really, you have to go, yeah, okay, in real life, maybe this or that would have happened instead, but it isn't real life, so you do have to forget being too critical, like you said, yeah, or you'll have no fun ever watching the movie. Death by Sabre's on a roll. Before Shaka, or before Black Panther, there was Shaka Zulu, I think he said. That's great.
Yeah, I am looking forward to. Oh, you said that the new Spawn. Yeah, I actually had the VHS set of Shaka Zulu. I thought it'd be worth something, but I think they just released it on DVD or something. So I bought it.
I remember when that aired brand new. So I'm showing my age right now, but I remember when that was upcoming. Coming soon. Shaka Zulu miniseries on TV. I remember that.
Crassgrass said, "What if the Russos make Captain Marvel likable and make her look silly and charming, dude? If they could, there's going to be too much oversight, so it's not going to be this way. But if she turned out to be like L337 and she was like some like joke on the political messaging that they thought was legitimate, that would be amazing." But given that, if y'all have seen the end credit scenes going on Twitter, she comes up, her second end credit scene ties into Endgame, and it's just like, yeah, they're really going with her to some degree or another.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll say it again, man. I'm down for her being in Avengers. I'm down for her having her own movie, all that stuff, but not the way they're doing it. Not the way they're doing it at all. I hate it.
It's funny here with Vision and Scarlet, and then with Quill and Gamora. I think there's like at least one more example, but this movie is all about sacrifice, and so it's kind of like No Country for Old Men in that way, where it's like the most devout person to their morals is the villain, and like Thanos, you see it from his past, and that's why he has this agenda. Heroes are always trying to find loopholes, kind of like Iron Man in the first Avengers, was like sometimes you gotta take a bullet or lay on a grenade or something, or lay on the line for your buddies, and he's like, why not cut the line? And so that's kind of how heroes work. They're always trying to find a way around casualties and stuff, and you see it
Well,
with like
that's why the oh, sorry.
you see it. That's kind of the theme of the movie is sacrifice, and
Yeah.
Thanos is the only one actually willing to sacrifice to achieve his goal. And if like any of the others would have done that, they might have stopped him from the get go. If uh, Strange was willing to like throw the stone somewhere into some infinity or whatever, if he was willing to sacrifice that instead of upholding these like this old guard, if you will, of the I can't remember what his group is called, but the Sanctum Sanctorum people. With the stone, like it's just really cool the way they made Thanos the actual protagonist.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's why the 14 million outcomes work so well, because the Avengers as heroes, the last thing they would think about is, well, what if we just gave up the stone? That would lead to us winning. Who's going to think that, especially heroes that are trying to, like you said, minimize casualties, et cetera, et cetera. So, of course, the very last thing they would try would be the one way that works. So they never were probably going to ever end up being able to try that, because it's the last thing they ever would have tried. So that's why that end game, we're in the end game now, and him giving up the stone, it absolutely works beautifully for me, because why would they try that first? They would never, it would never happen.
So
This
I'm
was
just
well done.
right now.
Yeah, I love the cape being its own character too.
It's like it's like the rug in Aladdin.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, and then Stark and Parker, I just love their father-son relationship thing they got going on. It's very well done.
Yeah, the way they've been able to ramp up Spider-Man from Civil War to his movie to here, um, it's pretty well done. Because I don't really, being critical, I don't really like the way they interject him in Civil War. Even though I like him, um, I feel he's way too like today's kids as opposed to adapting like the comic character. He's too like, oh, what's this? What's that? Oh, he's ADD and it's annoying. Um, so I hope we get a more mature Spider-Man in Far From Home, but uh, I feel like the direction doesn't match the ability of the actor.
I can see that. I'm fine with the way he is, but I think your points are completely valid. I totally can see that. But I think that if they are writing the story well and the way that it should develop, hopefully naturally, I think we're going to get exactly what you're hoping for in the next one. Because if he hasn't matured by the last film, or especially after the events of Infinity War, then what's the point in watching his character at all? We want to see him progress. So, but you never know what's going to go on now with what's been happening in the MCU. So who knows what they'll do? But I'm still excited for the next Spider-Man, no matter what. So I'm sure I'll end up seeing it regardless.
Until they put Brie Larson in the trailer.
Yeah. Unless they inject Captain Marvel shows up or something, then yeah, then I'm good. I don't need to see it, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Crass Grass says, I want Tony, Thor, or Star-Lord to hit on Captain Marvel. Well, Star-Lord's dusted right now. Thor is off in his own head, and Tony is, if anything, he's going to be hitting on Nebula just out of convenience and desperation. But yeah, I don't know. The way they did that trailer is like his head is, he's clearly advanced from being like this playboy character, just getting lucky with his money, with girls and stuff, and being flamboyant, to now he's devoted. He's talking about like family and stuff. He's really in his twilight now as a character. And regardless if he lives or not, he's about to come to an end as like a major player for sure.
Yeah.
Let me see. think
I don't think he's gonna die, honestly, because I think they give it that fake out in Infinity War that this is it. If he's gonna die now, and then he didn't die. So I have a feeling that means he's not gonna die in Endgame. I think they'll send him off with Pepper happily ever after. I think that's probably. I don't care what happens wherever they take him as long as it's well written. I'm not expecting anything one way or the other, but I just don't see it happening because I think they already faked us out once in this film, so I don't see them doing it for real again. I don't know, but they faked us out with Loki a couple times, so who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Anything could happen.
Yeah, I actually love that tease in Dark World where he's pretending to be Odin.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Does that mean Odin was pretending to be Loki?
No, Odin
No,
was
he was
on.
he was
He was
banished.
in Norway.
Yeah.
Well, no, I meant was that during Dark World? I can't remember. Was he still in Asgard at the time?
Yeah, he starts out. It's him in Asgard, and then Loki takes over by the end of the end of Dark World. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I better warn you, you're on the line with two people who actually like Dark World. I know nobody likes that movie. I
Oh
think
no,
it's
I like Dark World. The problem with it is that they tried to. I feel like Thor is the guy before Guardians became a thing. So I didn't even know who the Guardians were, but with Thor being made, it's like Thor is a guy you can be really wacky with. You can make him like Lord of the Rings in space, and it seemed like they were trying to do that, especially with like the guy I think directed the first one. Is kind of like a more like old world literature play type awareness with acting and directing. But yeah, like they didn't sync well, and the whole like well, I don't care if it's in the comics or not. The way they like sold it on screen, where it's like, oh, like what you call science is like our magic or whatever. It's like, no, like, you know, I don't mind midichlorians, but that's like kind of the same argument where it's like, quit trying to be like too real with wacky comic
yeah,
shit.
I suppose. Yeah, I could. Des and I tried an experiment a few months back, and it went really well. I think we watched Dark World and then Ragnarok right in a row to see how it
Mm-hmm.
went. And I was amazed that the tones are so incredibly different, yet somehow two flows right into three and it feels perfectly fine. I don't know how that happened, but it was amazing to watch because I didn't think that was going to be the case. But it does. It goes right into the next mood, and they're able to transition from kind of, well, the dark world, a darker film, darker mood, and then they go completely wacky in the next one, and it's fine. So credit to the franchise for that, I think.
Yeah, I feel the only movie that's just like I don't care to ever see it again in the MCU is Incredible Hulk. Besides finally tying in, was it Stryker? What Colonel Stryker? Besides tying him into like Civil War and Infinity War, like there's nothing there in that movie that seems to carry over at all. Um, Majorly, at least, that's like rememberable. And then I would definitely put Dark World and the first Captain America towards the bottom of the MCU rankings myself, but um, yeah, Incredible Hulk's the only one that I'm just like, nope, never buying that.
I can see that. I like it, but I don't watch it hardly ever. I haven't seen it in years. Same with the first Thor. I'm not that big on the first Thor. I think I mentioned earlier. I love the first Captain America though. I would put it right behind probably. I don't know. Infinity War and the first Cap for me are just like at the top easily of the whole MCU so far. I just love that film. But yeah, Incredible Hulk's a tough one to get into. I wish that we could get more Hulk. I like Ruffalo as Hulk a lot and his banner quite a bit, but I understand they can't do his own movie anymore or whatever. Or they don't want to because of rights and whatever. But pairing him up with Thor was great.
Um, yeah, like Thor: The Dark World, like overall, I think it's kind of cool the whole Dark Elves thing and shit. It's like I want to see,
Yeah,
I want to see more of that, especially with the introduction of like Guardians of the Galaxy. I think you got more minds that know how to do it. I feel the MCU is really working the last few years because at first it was like only comic book people would get involved at all with these movies, and now it's like, oh, this is setting the standard for every other universe being built in Hollywood, and so now everyone's taking notice, even when they weren't the best quality productions. So yeah, like I don't know, along with the money behind Disney to ensure stuff. But yeah, the directors they got, the co-directors for Captain Marvel just doesn't make sense for what I've seen them create for what
Yeah,
they're
Jay
doing.
and I were just talking about that the other day. It's kind of weird that they made that decision.
It's like, why
Basically,
wouldn't you pick like uh Ridley Scott would be so cool for MCU, or Denis Villeneuve from
mhm.
Arrival and Blade Runner 2049. Um, I still feel they're
I
not
don't.
really getting big vision directors yet for the MCU overall. Besides these Russo guys, Russo guys are really knocking out of the
Yeah.
park, and Gunn was like a hidden gem.
Yeah, Captain Marvel directors, I could be way off, of course, but I think that has more to do with they speak the correct speak. They talk the cult talk. So that's why they got it. That's what I think.
Yeah, everyone's kind of demonizing Feige now. It's either that this was kind of his plan all along, and just get us in his graces, so then he could do this himself, or I think more plausible actually is this is coming down from the mouse.
I think so too, but I
Yeah,
can't say I trust Feige anymore, though. Whatever the situation is, I understand he probably has to toe the line and stuff, but just because of that, I can't trust what's going on with him anymore. So it's
yeah,
unfortunate.
I completely agree. The first half though, it's that's even worse. I mean, you basically pull the bait and switch. It's just so if that's the case, then it's just too deceitful for me. I can't trust you going forward with it. If that is the case, then that's bullshit. I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, I think the latter is probably more likely, like you said, Angus.
Yeah, it
Probably
probably
much
is the
more
more likely
likely, but
scenario. But
still,
either
either way,
scenario,
it's
I'm
not.
not. Sorry, either
No. Go
scenario, I'm
ahead.
not okay with.
Yeah,
But
Um,
anyway, gentlemen, I got to get going because I got a couple other things I need to attend to. But this has been
no
fun.
problem, man.
yeah, dude, this is
Yeah, I'm
great. I
glad
haven't
to.
done this before. I've only listened to him before, so this is great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
glad you're able to come along this time, Dennis, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, absolutely. Angus, I'll make sure to check out that video you were talking about. You said it was back in December, right? Something like that, or November?
Yeah,
What'd you say?
you'll notice it's got my icon for the poster. The thumbnail's got my poster, and the other half is like a purple Black Panther helmet.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I'll
let
be
me
sure
know
to
what you think
check
in the
that out.
comments. Because I haven't really given like our community in general, nerd community, besides maybe Marvel recently. It's just it's been a very, very much a white thing because America's a white nation, just percentage wise, and it's like American white mythology, large part, I would say for sure. So it's like now it's kind of opening up to the major public, but
Right.
yeah. So yeah, I would like to get another black guy's perspective on this. Not that I focus on that stuff, but I like to get someone that might identify more or potentially with these characters in my critique of it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Absolutely. I'll make sure I check that out and get back to you.
Awesome, dude. See you around, dude. Thanks for
All right,
joining.
man. Take it easy, bro. Later, fellas.
All right, see you, Des.
All right, so we're just gonna end this. No, I'm joking.
I was gonna say now there's only one, so I don't know if it's worth continuing. So
Oh yeah, so we're getting close to Wakanda popping up in the storyline. Um, I was talking about this. I don't know if you saw my Lego, because I've been doing. I got an iPhone now, so I got the editor on my phone, so it's not such a big deal for me to like make these like cheap videos, in my opinion, as far as quality and whatnot. Just reading articles, but I was looking at the Lego set reveals. Of course, I love Legos, and interesting thing is I haven't seen any of the Wakanda people in the sets yet, and I'm waiting. Once people get over this Captain Marvel hype, whether it's a success or not, once we get past this and people are focused on Shazam and Endgame, I'm waiting for people to take notice of the Lego sets because, like I said, there's no Wakanda characters, and if you remember back when Force Awakens came, before the major fandom even became aware of like politics getting interjected and stuff, there was this outcry from the SJWs about Ray not being in a lot of the marketing and products, which of course was them hiding her for who she was, the main character. And so there's this whole
right.
like feminist thing, or like, oh, you're not marketing a female because you're sexist company or something. And it's like I'm waiting for that with Black Panther characters for the series. I mean, they got Falcon, of course, in the marketing. I think. Oh no, he's Dustin. So no, he's not even in the marketing for. No, it's only people that have lived through this movie are in the um, the marketing and the
merchandise and stuff.
products. Merchandise, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, the only black guy is Rhodes. That's it. War Machine. That's the only black guy that's left in the marketing. So I'm waiting.
Have you happened? Okay.
Oh no, that's all I was gonna say. Is I'm anticipating this. I called it, and if it happens, you'll see it a month early. Like, oh yeah, I called that shit.
Have you seen Anthony Mackie in interviews and stuff before, and his take on race relations and all that stuff going on now?
No, I don't know this character. I'll have to write him down and look him up.
He plays Falcon.
Oh, okay. I didn't know his name, but yeah, what's his take?
Oh, he's great. He's absolutely great. I think you really love what he has to say. You should. There's a couple of interviews that he's got on that are up on YouTube. You should check them out. But he brings up like humor and how it's changed and how it's not, it's not cool that we can't just make fun of each other anymore. Like All in the Family days and Sanford and Son and all those days when we just celebrated each other by making fun of each other. So he has some really great points, and it was really nice to hear someone else besides Chris Pratt, I guess, that wasn't insane in my opinion. But yeah, you should really check out what he has to say. He seems like a really down to earth and really intelligent guy.
Yeah, to address the chat, Anti-Bird, my thing with Black Panther, of course, you can see just a complete argument I make in my video. But essentially, as a half-black guy who was in the army, so I've never really bought into the whole like racial divisions the media tries to make with, like the Dakota pipeline thing with Indians or with black people and Black Lives Matters and Ferguson and whatnot. Cops, I never buy into that. It's like I'm just an individual, and overall, I think we should try to live and judge each other as individuals and not see surface level stuff. Oh, the gay community is saying like, well, like the overall policies of this community as like a voting organization don't really reflect on the individual per se. And with that being said, there's this whole social cause behind Black Panther, as opposed to like, I bet Anthony Mackie, just even if he is the same mindset as all these people behind Black Panther as a social cause, I could see him being jaded for the fact that like, hey, I'm a black guy in this series before Black Panther became a question, and now you're dissing me. Like no one latched on to Falcon, who has been Captain America before, from what I know, or Rhodes from the start. And so there's this whole cause behind Black Panther, and for one, everything about this society doesn't make sense. Like, if you're so technologically advanced, you would take advantage and take more land. Look at Rome, look at Persia, look at Greece as great examples. Alexander the Great with maybe not technology, but knowledge of war. So it doesn't make sense on that fact. It doesn't make sense that he's not a hero for black people when this is a sore subject for the Islamic community as a talking point. But from what I've researched, Islamic people, even if it's just warfare and stuff, they're responsible for like estimated 200 million slaves through history from Africa. The Atlantic trade was at least 12 million plus the offspring in the Atlantic in America. So Wakanda, not in, their success comes at the expense of every black person in Africa, given all the colonization, the effects colonization had. And so to think that there's some like heroic idea or something, this Afrofuturism or whatever the term is for that type of movie, is misguided for sure. And the idea, the stuff you're supposed to take from it is not that Wakanda is great because they have like Trump-like ideas of border security, that T'Challa does away with the wrongs of his forefathers. Well, if that's the case, he's opened himself to invasion from every country around him that now knows their riches. So it doesn't work in any realism with that. Whether and they don't trade with anyone, so how are they rich at all? And they ignore in their timeline. They talk about how they ignore World War II and World War I and slavery as big moments of human history, as like that's the intro, and they gloss over, but that's an indictment on the society. Also, look at just current or fairly current African events like the Rwanda genocide, which is about 1 million deaths, and the Somali civil war, which Black Hawk Down was part of. You get 1 million deaths for each of those countries in these events, and they're within 1,000 miles of where Wakanda is actually on the map in the Alemi Triangle. The plot of Black Panther starts in Nigeria with the Avengers having like 11 Wakandans get killed in the explosion from crossbones. And so they're all like, we need to stop these people. We need to interject and put a leash on the Avengers, make sure they communicate with countries that are essentially invading to protect. And the whole political argument of that is really good. There's no right answer. Sovereignty of nations versus doing the right thing to protect people. Like, where do you stand on that? That's a good political argument that doesn't have an answer. But when the whole cause of the Sokovia Accords is, oh, well, some Wakandans died, that's the last straw. It's pretty nice that you can, as Wakanda and King T'Chaka, cry about that 11 deaths, and yet all your riches come off the expense of 12 million slaves and all the deaths through Africa through history that you could have stopped or affected, along with World War I, World War II, and yeah. So that's my grand indictment that's in my video, along with the fact that there's this whole reparations culture like I talked about with Black Panther that. They're always after Whitey for the generational wealth, possibly from slavery in America, for families that are white, but they never talk about the black people in West Africa that sold their own people. They were prisoners of war, so it's like whatever. But they never talk about those people who in the homeland sold their kin or their countrymen to the white slavers. So that's my huge indictment because of the social significance. Like, this is some grand second coming of Martin Luther King or something. That's why I nail this movie to the ground, as opposed to Wonder Woman that we can indict for not interjecting in World War II so far in her plot. That's a fine argument, but no one has made this grand statement about Wonder Woman as a film for womankind or something, like they're doing with Captain Marvel. I just saw Fighting with My Family, and goddamn, made me cry at the end. I want my daughter to look at someone like that as a hero, and yet Captain Marvel is like, oh, this is some grandstand for women against the patriarchy of history. So that's kind of my argument in T-Bird.
That's good stuff. I keep wondering this fight. That's the part that bugs me. It's like, keep fighting the fight, girls. What fight? What are you talking about? Why are you so angry? Why are you fighting? I just, it's aggravating. Okay, so yeah, this is great. Talking about the movie here. I love Dinklage in this role, and I love the giant dwarf.
Yes. Do you watch Game of Thrones, Jay?
Oh yeah, big fan. Des
Yeah.
and I both are big fans.
When I saw this, like before I knew who it was, because I didn't know about the casting of this guy, but I saw him and I was like, that's a dwarf. And then it's like, oh my God, it's fucking Tyrion. Way to market yourself outside of Game of Thrones. Yeah, and, I rewatched Days of Future Past. I wasn't really sold on it the first time. Rewatching it, watching the X-Men series, goddamn, he's a good villain. And I actually kind of empathize with him.
Yeah, he's good. That movie's really good, actually, I think. Out of all the X-Men films, that one's probably in my top 3.
Dude, I like them all, besides Wolverine and Wolverine Origins.
I don't like X-Men 3 either. It's not as bad as when it first came out, now that I've had all these years to kind of let it sink in that that's what it's going to be. So it's not quite as bad, but I really don't enjoy watching. It's not one I throw on ever. But yeah, the first two were pretty bad.
Sorry, I love that. He's like, are you yawning right now?
Yeah. Well, we skipped when they met up and we were talking about the other stuff, but that's one of my favorite, probably top 3 moments in the film, just because, as I told you earlier, that was what I was waiting for. And I loved how they did that dynamic of they each think they're with Thanos and wait, you're not with Thanos. Wait, every exchange in that moment is just so well done. And it continues here.
Yeah, again, they had Quill versus Stark with the tech. He had the Cape versus Drax, so you got like the comedic humor of the teams, roughly. And then you got Mantis with Spider-Man, who is, a dumb kid. He just did the Aliens thing to beat Ebony Maw. And so he's like in his head, it's in his head thinking about aliens and eggs and stuff. So it's like, it's relevant thought for him with an actual alien crossing him, and it's like, right. It's funny. Yeah, it's like Civil War, dude. The Russo brothers are so aware with the characters they got and getting the most out of them.
Yeah.
But I wish there would have been, if I could have added anything to this movie, I wish there would have been a nipples joke for Drax, like in Guardians 2. My nipples! Like he saves him with the jetpack, but he's like, my nipples. That's probably the one problem with the CGI throughout all of the Avengers movies. Even in this one, is Stark's suit, because he's wearing like a CGI set to like map his suit on him. They still haven't got that down. They haven't. Not as bad as Alita with some of the cyborgs, but to me it stands out, and it's weird because when I watch the prequels, even episode 1, some of that CGI is flawless compared to modern CGI. But I think they outsource to like Korea a lot, and so they like give them time hacks, and they don't have so much legalities to work with for the workforce. So that might be it. But overall, dude, like
the CGI is uneven.
Yeah. Besides Iron Man's suit with his face showing, the CGI is just flawless and beautiful. Especially like
I agree. When it's good, it's excellent. Like Thanos is just so realistic. There's a point when Gamora attacks him, right when that's going on, where there's light coming in behind him, and there's actually like peach fuzz on his forehead and on his cheek coming from the light behind. So it's really incredible. But yeah, I'd say the suit and then Corvus Glaive and some of the Black Order look kind of rubbery sometimes, especially when Black Widow stabs Corvus Glaive in the stomach when they first appear, and he does that with his face, and it gets really rubbery, and it looks kind of like Ghostface from Scream almost. So it gets a little rubbery sometimes, but overall, like I said, so it is mixed, I think, the quality, but everything with Thanos is gorgeous. Like I forget I'm watching CG when I'm watching Thanos most of the time. It's so well done.
Yeah, only when they show him like focusing on his gauntlet do I ever really notice at all the CGI. But when I watch it, him, especially his features, his facial features, especially, it's like even when I'm thinking of CGI for the character, I'm thinking like, God damn, this is so gorgeous portrayal. I mean, you could hate the character, think he's ugly, but like it is so detailed and well grafted, I guess is the word I would use. I don't know. I feel like I'm missing a word for that. But did you know that the Red Skull here in this scene on Vormir is not Hugo Weaving?
I didn't know that until about 3 months after I saw it. So I was blown away. I'm a big Weaving fan.
Yeah, apparently he thought it was kind of dumb that he ever did Civil War or First Avenger. So
interesting. I didn't know that.
He's kind of a jaded guy, and it's funny too. Speaking of jaded people, a little off topic, but DC, Mel Gibson was in the running, I think, at least for rumor mill, for Suicide Squad 2, and
I remember that.
I would like that because I don't really see a style to Mel Gibson films as a director, but as a director, he's got such a great short list of films that are all Oscar worthy. And so it'd be cool to see him, a guy who hates this formulaic series, actually, when he makes something, he does it well. It'd be cool to see him apply. I don't know. You'd have to get a really odd character for him to. I think he would need a solo film, and someone that's kind of stripped bare of power. Even if it was like a Logan type thing, where it's like this is at his end. You need Mel Gibson to do someone like that to really get the character. I don't know of a character off the bat that he could do. Maybe Spawn. Spawn would be cool if Todd McFarlane was imagining himself. I think that would be a cool character that has some cool religious connotations that Gibson could really buy into to portray.
And isn't Spawn getting rebooted? That's what I keep hearing.
Yeah, they're gonna do like horror. It's gonna be rated R, and Todd McFarlane, I think, is directing it as well as writing it. And he's got, last I heard, the script is like 160 pages, and normal script's 120. So he's really going all out with this. And he's taking his time.
That's a good one to reboot, I think. I have to point something out with this movie before we move on to the next scenes, though. I kind of have a Rogue One critique here. Why does Thanos, they know the Soul Stone's there, even if they don't know the exact location, he knows it's at the top of the mountain. Why do they land like where it's going to take them 2 weeks and they're going to need provisions and camping out to walk up this mountain? I don't understand why he didn't at least land at the bottom, at the base of the mountain, at the very least.
Well, you know what it is. It's artistic. It's this movie's so good. You're not going. No one's going to focus on that, and it's a way to show off the new world that you're portraying, because it doesn't get a lot of screen time, but what you see is like, wow, this they took a lot of time to perfect this world imagery. So I think that's really what it is. It's just like, hey, let's kind of show off right here.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the shot's gorgeous, no doubt about it. But I just find it funny that that part in Rogue One gets so much, crap, and I don't mind it in Rogue One at all. So that's why I bring it up here. Is that but you never hear it talked
the
about
intro. I
in
forgot about
Infinity
what you were
War.
talking about.
Yeah, he land. Yeah, they land when they first get to what's his name, the guy who he built in he has the blueprint for the Death Star, and when they go to land at the beginning to meet him, they land like miles away from the house, and I saw critiques about that everywhere when that movie came out. I was like,
You
why
know
did they
why?
land that far?
I'll give you an easy excuse, even if it's not the reason. Um, it's a militaristic decision. It's got the Death Troopers. This is a way you're dealing with Galen Erso, who is trying to hide from the Empire, who's kind of gone rogue himself from this mission. He's the key that they need to complete it, and so, regardless of their scanning capabilities and knowing that no one's around, maybe they suspect some booby traps. So it's like a kind of like, hey, let's scout this before we just jump right in.
Yeah, I didn't mind it at all in Rogue One. I thought it looked really cool, and like you said with this movie, that was kind of the point, was we're setting up a really cool shot, and I didn't mind it at all. But I just find it kind of funny that I've never heard that same complaint about a very similar moment in this film.
So when we get here to Vormir and they get up there and it's like, oh, you have to sacrifice. Were you fooled at all that he might not get the Soul Stone? That this might be a hiccup in his plan?
No, and in fact, one of the things I mentioned in our review of this film is that I'm not sure if Gamora being the last one to realize what's happening is on purpose or not. So I don't know if that's a flaw, because I'm not someone who sees the ending of a movie like from the beginning, like a lot of people can do. I just enjoy it, and when it happens, I'm surprised usually. But with this, I was like, yeah, you're dead, Gamora. Why aren't you seeing this? So I didn't know if just for once I happened to catch on early, or if that was on purpose. So yeah, I didn't have any doubt he was going to get it, and I saw that he was going to have to kill her right away, and I'm still confused whether that's was supposed to be supposed
This
to happen.
this scene right here. This is the one scene that really, to me, sticks out as like some not great CGI. Like when he's in the water, it looks kind of like some early like Shrek rendering or something with their CGI. Not him per se, but the water. He stands out because the water looks fake.
Yeah, it really, because everything here is fake. It really does look like we're watching a video game cutscene all of a sudden, and in its entirety. I mean, which is a little bit jarring when compared to the rest of the film.
Yeah, I was talking about this earlier when I was in the theater. Every time there's some black people in there, this is like the one scene where you heard them like wake up and like, yeah, Wakanda. And of course, you get a Starbucks joke, and it's like, it's fine, I guess, but the fact that that's like the only joke leading into the scene and the exchange, which was repeatedly shown in that trailer, it was like. Like usually, if you got a joke, you want something to back it up afterwards, where it's not, oh, that's the one thing you saw in the trailer that oh, that's what happened. Like you gave it away.
Yeah,
I guess you could say this whole kneeling thing was the second joke for the scene.
yeah,
Like,
this is funny. I found this humorous when he's like, "Hey, you're supposed to kneel and stuff." Yeah.
I don't know. Given how they built up Wakanda as like this great thing and stuff, and like this is like the perfect African vision or something. The Starbucks jokes or the Olympics, it just seems kind of like below them, beneath them. It's like, what? Who would want a fucking Starbucks in Wakanda? You have actual like African coffee, like.
Right. Well, with Wakanda in general too, it's just kind of, I guess, funny, ironic, whatever the word is, because one of my favorite parts of the MCU, regardless of what's going on with it socially and in the real world, is Wakanda. I absolutely love Wakanda. I love Black Panther. He's one of my favorite characters in the entire thing. And yet I'm as white as the freaking snow. It has nothing to do with skin. So it's not like, oh, for black people, this is so great for black people. It's like, look, other people like it too. In fact, I love the Black Panther stuff. So it's you just got to make good characters and set things up well and present, struggle and all that good stuff, overcome struggle, blah, blah, blah. And if the characters are done well, it does not matter what gender, what color your skin is, whatever. and I'm case in point on Wakanda for me. Yeah, I would have
Yeah,
been cheering right along with your audience, I guess, and I would have looked really out of place, I guess.
the one thing I would say, I remember after Infinity War, I started following before I got on Twitter, so I was only on Facebook, and I was starting my channel. Um, hey, what's up, Stig? I'm catching up on the chat, and it's refreshing.
That's okay. No worries.
See you, Inti. Let me see. All right, so I'm caught up on that so far. The one thing I'll say about Wakanda when you had like the memes coming out and stuff was some people are like, oh, sure, he's a Mary Sue, and that's the one point I would argue against, given that's my fair criticism, is that no, she's not. That she can be written that way going forward, especially with Captain Marvel being interjected now and the politics behind it. But Shuri, her character makes sense, even if it seems like kind of out of nowhere that she's smarter. Like, oh, we got this woman with the Black Panther, the woke agenda movie, and she's like the smartest person in the Avengers lineup. It makes sense if you understand anything about psychology, because this idea of like accrued wealth builds accrued intellect of a society. So like once, think of the Dark Ages, you're struggling to make enough crop after sharecropping essentially to your lords to survive each year. So it makes sense that people were pretty dumb. It was all advantageous to the hierarchy. But now you think of America, it's pretty much equated where the poorest people can still be educated compared to the third world. With Wakanda being supposedly the most advanced civilization and self-sustained and whatnot, Shuri being a product of a long line of kings that's technologically advanced, her intellect makes a lot of sense. You can write it like a Mary Sue, but I actually buy it, and that's why I'm interested to see her interact with Stark and maybe make some crazy technology for Iron Man or Black Panther or Spider-Man.
Yeah, I thought she was cool and well done.
It's called the Flynn effect. That's what it is.
Okay. Yeah, at first I did have for a couple milliseconds when she first came on screen, it was like, okay, is this going to be on purpose? We're going to have a woman of color be the best scientist ever, and it could have gone awry really quick, but it did not. And I thought the film was really fun and really well done, and I've watched it maybe 2 or 3 times now, and yeah, it's got flaws just like any other film, and I don't like how they stripped him of his powers and then he had to earn them back. I thought that was a cop out because I think that was a backtrack of whoops. How do we fix this? How do we do this story? So that stood out like a sore thumb to me. I did not like that at all. But other than that, I had a great time with that movie.
Yeah. Oh, I guess the other my just like story critique, not my like tearing it apart because of social significance and it's not that great. Looking at like reality with this being put into like our universe, a story plot that I would say makes Black Panther weak for me. Is that he's already destined to be great. He doesn't have to struggle to be Black Panther intrinsically. It's a position he gets with his father's passing. It's just inherited. So if you do that, you really got to make a struggle in your society, like some great event. And I guess you could say Killmonger presents that, but it doesn't convince me. Because, think of Spider-Man or Batman. It's like they struggle personally by being this character to fight crime or whatever, or evil. Black Panther, he was already going to be king. He doesn't have to struggle to be Black Panther. And so that's another thing that doesn't make me buy into him. But I thought he was really cool when he came into Civil War. And so that's another reason why I was like so let down with the movie of his own, is the way the transition from, we got this guy that he actually has a struggle when he takes up the mantle, because it's like, it's not naturally taken upon himself.
Yeah, I can see all that. All valid points. It's just a matter of if it entertains you or not, for sure. Yeah.
Well, because like he, once they throw him off the cliff, it kind of like you don't even need him for a big chunk of the story. So you don't really buy his struggle because everyone's kind of carrying his body around for a while and stuff.
I gotta ask. We passed the moment, I think, but maybe you can explain this to me. It's a nitpick. It's not a big deal, but just we're talking about Infinity War, right? When Thor is trying to get the forge going with the star, he's telling Rocket Raccoon like more power, Rabbit, and all that stuff. They never put like there's no how are they hearing each other? Because he's talking to the dwarf, he's talking to Raga Raccoon, and there's no. They did give it a little bit of an effect, like it's coming through some kind of communication device when you hear like Eitri talking off screen and whatever. But there's nothing in their ear. There's nothing like there's no device. There's no technology.
Oh,
Shown.
plus
So I don't know
it's
if
space, so sound doesn't carry through
yeah,
no air.
it's very strange.
I took it as I just bought it because he's a god, and so it's like, well, this is, he doesn't hit, laws of physics and sound and whatnot don't really apply to him. If you're really assessing it, that's how I took it. Was like, he's a god, so it's easy to work that around.
So when they talk back to him, does he have super hearing basically to hear through the spaceship he's in and all that? I'm just asking.
No. It's fun to do that. No, it's a fun conversation. Me personally, and I still, even talking about, I still buy it, even though it's like, that's like it is a legitimate nitpick, perhaps.
Yeah, it's no big deal at all. It does not take away from me enjoying the movie whatsoever. I just find it kind of funny. Well, how is he talking to them? Yeah. This was a really well done battle. I think it's my favorite battle of the whole thing is when they're trying to get the gauntlet off of Thanos and Titan. But even though this is just a bunch of CG creatures and stuff, it could have easily gone to okay, I've seen this a million times, and yeah, there's still a little bit of that for me. But because it's so well choreographed and there's always something different going on every minute or so, I just felt like it could have been really boring and really run of the mill, and they did a really good job making it not be.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say it's stupid about this whole thing, especially so another thing I talk about with I think I talked about in my video is that they have this giant they present vibranium as like it's a very rare commodity even to the Wakandans, but then you see they got like a freaking train system through this like mountain size or bigger mine that's barely been tapped. And so like my thing is like, well, if the purple plant is what makes the Black Panther like above everyone else, why don't they make Black Panther suits? Because they essentially use the same tech to make these shields in their robes, and it's like, why doesn't he have like at least a special guard, like the girl guards, whatever, from why don't they have like their own Black Panther-esque suits? Because he has the superpower outside of the suit. He's like Iron Man with an additional power, but you can make everyone else like an Iron Man because Shuri has like the little guns on her hands.
I think it's a matter of just that's when it becomes a movie. It's like we got to make sure there's different things to be looking at and there's different powers to be had, so everyone's different. But yeah, if this were real, yeah, I think absolutely. Why wouldn't you do that if you have all that purple going on?
Yeah, I like how they show where it's like Black Panther and us. Like you don't really, because you don't have other people with them, even though you have the cars in Civil War. You get the sense like, oh, Panther and Rogers are like superhuman to a degree, but this scene really kind of shows that differentiation from their peers.
Yeah, this was.
But yeah, Winter Soldier. Yeah. Winter Soldier with his like just unending ammo. That was just like, oh come on! Like at least give him a struggle where he has to reload. Where it's like, oh god, this is pressing. I gotta I'm black on ammo.
Yeah, good point. But I think it's really it shows how great this film is, really, because if we have to find these little tiny things to nitpick to not like, whatever. I mean, we're really reaching. I feel I am anyway. I'm really reaching to find stuff I don't like. It's not a flawless film because I don't believe that exists, but it's still so well done for 99% of the film.
I love this joke where he's like, "It'll kill you, boy." He's like, "Only if I die."
Yeah,
yeah that's what I was saying.
yeah, I love it too because you hear lines like that in other movies, like "Only if we die first," and I'm always thinking what Peter Dinklage is thinking. It's like, yeah, I know that's it. And so the fact that they called that out, I absolutely love that too.
I mean, this is a great kind of like Jason Momoa-esque scene to just like look at Thor, ladies. He's powerful. And it doesn't feel cheap or something, like people complain about like the ass shot on the chick or something. Like people cry about Michael Bay films and stuff like with his shots of the ladies in his movies, but it's like no one cries about when they do it to men, And I don't mind it, It's like, yeah, like this is superhuman people. Like they've devoted their whole bodies to fit these roles. Like show them off.
Yeah, and I love the argument about the comics. Like, no one can have these bodies. It's like, no, you can do it. It actually is possible. We're seeing it on screen all the time in the MCU. I don't know what you're talking about. You're superhuman basically at that point. I mean, it's very rare. It's not something. It's not average, but it's not impossible.
According to Disney, Starbucks equals progress.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Purple plant Viagra. I love this chat. Death by Saber is great. I gotta get him on a stream someday, dude.
Oh,
Hey, Death
very
by
well.
Saber. A stream I want to do is Kung Pao Enter the Fist. So if you got a copy of that, or go to the library and find one, we let me know and we'll do a stream. Yeah, I see. Oh, here's another thing with so like some of the people that got dusted. So Groot, of course, gets dusted. One thing that I thought was a plot hole is he makes the handle for Stormbreaker. And so it's like, well, could you break off a piece of that and grow him again, or grow like essentially? So this Groot is actually second generation Groot. It's not the same Groot from the first one. So that Groot actually died, and that was like his spawn or like his clone, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. So I'm
Yeah,
wondering, like, well, could you break off the end of Thor's axe and make a third generation Groot?
I don't know if it's a plot hole because it still could happen if they wanted to.
No,
I
no,
love
no.
to
It's
see
not.
it.
Yeah, it's not a plot hole. It's just like I was wondering, like, well, you could technically have two Groots then,
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that absolutely could happen.
This fight scene here in Wakanda, the way they show some of these close-ups, I don't think they gave enough time to it because they just like this mass
Yeah.
CGI army. But there's a couple scenes here, like even when Black Panther's getting taken out, where it's like this is scary.
Yeah, yeah, I agree 100%. There's some poorly done shots only because they just, I think, need a little more time. But then yeah, it's
Yeah,
again, it's a mixed bag, and then there's some really great ones. This is a
yeah.
good
The
moment. I
CGI
wish they
on
would have
the
had Zeppelin playing again here, though.
the CGI on the monsters is probably another weak point. Just because they did so much. But it's like,
Yeah.
I can. It's not that big of a part of the movie, especially with Thor taking them out. But that's another reason why I don't want like the way they've had Thor progress through all this series, and then you make like Marvel the strongest. It's like you have the strongest with Thor, and it makes sense. And we've invested, and you've got people to buy into it largely because of Ragnarok and his Avenger appearances.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You guys are
Yeah,
so
this all
screwed.
worked. Yeah, he looks great with the lightning going through him and stuff. And I know why they didn't use the Zeppelin song again, but it would have been great to have Led Zeppelin blasting when he came down again. I'm a big Zeppelin fan, so that's probably why.
Well, I would have liked. They could have done it. Had a scene where like the lightning really takes an effect when he gets Stormbreaker on the star. They could have done it that way.
This is great too when Thanos is kind of surprised that Doctor Strange is just sitting there waiting for him, and he actually has a moment where he starts explaining his plan, and it very much could have been a Bond villain moment, but it's done. The dialogue is so well written, and his delivery, Brolin's delivery, is just so great, and they give you all the information you need, and it doesn't even feel like they're giving you an info dump. So I thought this was a really, really great scene.
Yeah, like expository dialogue doesn't have to be dumb or like a letdown or like, oh god, we're in this part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
There was some movie I watched.
Like when he looks down there and kind of smiles. I love that. He's like, he just kind of looks down and shakes his head a little bit and just smiles at the ground, like, oh, whatever. Let me tell you how it is, buddy. I love that.
Yeah, um, he's like, you think you know stuff? Let me tell you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, Thanos is a likable guy, and I feel he's pretty um, even killed mentally, and like I say again, once you get in this fight, like he's not trying to kill anyone; he's just trying to suppress them. And he only, like with Stark, compare that to Loki when he stabs Stark. It's not malicious. It's just like, all right, this is getting out of hand. I need to put an end to this to some degree. And so, like, I really buy his, even though it's flawed, because eventually the population will regrow, especially with that big of a deficit in excess resources. It'll equate itself eventually. So even if even if Thanos doesn't have the time stone or the quantum realm to correct his event, time necessitates repeat. What do you call it? Repeat dealings of his plan. I'll be right back.
No problem, man. Whoever's still here, we're just watching the movie. We got Iron Man just popped out and surprised Thanos, and now we got the rest of them. Yeah, this is great. This is my favorite fight in the whole thing. Everybody gets a chance to display their powers and do their part. It's actually a pretty smart plan, actually, as well. Until Quill messes it all up, of course. Yeah, even Strange Cape, even the Cape gets in on this. I'm just into this right now. Whoever's still on, hence the silence. Yeah, they also did a really great job. There's differentiation in powers as well. So you got Doctor Strange. He's not just doing one or two things. He's got, I mean, even visually, you got all kinds of different colors and stuff going on. It's just from top to bottom. It's probably easily the most exciting sequence in the entire film. Yeah, he's using the portals and yeah, the Iron Spider coming out to do his thing. Yeah, it's very, very smart. Yeah, Crass Grass. I noticed when this movie came out, there was a lot of, not maybe not a lot, but there's definitely some voices that didn't like the fact that he lost it. And it's like, why would you do that? You almost had him. But I think probably another character should have been in those shoes because obviously not everyone's going to handle that the same way. It was Quill's plan. He doesn't let you forget that. But ultimately, he probably shouldn't have been the one standing there at the end. Because, yeah, it's the love of his life, probably the first person he's ever really loved. And then she's gone. And now he's in this position where emotion and rage just are allowed to take over. So maybe Doctor Strange should have been standing there instead of Quill. But yeah, I liked it because I thought it really fit the Quill character. That's exactly. I mean, Tony Stark probably would have done the same thing had it been Pepper. So you wouldn't have wanted Tony standing there at the end either. You are back. We had a little bit of silence, but I tried to keep people entertained.
No, you're fine, dude. I just hadn't put my son back down to sleep. He woke up and had to pee.
No worries, man.
But he's pretty good.
Real life's got to come first, man, for sure.
Yeah, the scene, like, this is another testament to the CGI because you get this close up of Thanos, you get his eyes, and you get like his scars, you get his grimacing and teeth and stuff, and I really buy the scene.
Yeah, it's my favorite sequence, I think, probably hands down. And
yeah, I do buy the whole, like, people, I think there's some irritation to say at least that this was kind of like how they kept the plot going with Thanos to complete the Gauntlet quest, but I buy it, even though I never the reaction of Quill with Gamora, like, I never bought their relationship completely, but I buy the sentiment, even though it wasn't portrayed well so far to get to this point, if that makes sense.
No, I can see that. I can definitely see that. One thing I was thinking that kind of came up when you were away was in my mind when I think about this sequence. I'm remembering everybody gets to have their powers on display. Each part of the plan is a piece of the puzzle. It all works very well. But I'm thinking about the characters. I forgot you really the cape. Doctor Strange's cape helps, and then you've got oh, why am I forgetting her name? Gamora's sister, mechanical chick.
Nebula.
Nebula, thank you. And she's in on it. I forgot about her. And then they're doing all the portal stuff, and Doctor Strange is basically using a whole bunch of different powers. So it's it's diverse for your eyeballs. Basically, you're seeing different colors and different ways of trying to attack him. It's very well done, and I forgot that it's more than just the characters. Even the stupid cape has something to do. It's just great.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about Winter Soldier to know about his armor, new arms or anything. But I really like the design of the second arm.
Yeah, and that's vibranium, if I remember right. He's got the vibranium arm, right? Just like the shield, Cap shield. I think it's supposed to be a vibranium tech thing.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I didn't like Roger's like wrist shields because it doesn't feel like when he like pops them to have the points. It's like, oh, that's it. Like you pretty much already had that same coverage the whole time.
Yeah, I don't mind him. I just miss the shield. To me, that's Captain America. That's like having, they had that version there too of Superman where he didn't have a cape, and it was like, no, don't do that. I feel like that way with Cap and his shield. It's like he's got to have his shield. Come on now.
Yeah, with these buzzsaw things coming under the shield, I thought it'd be cool if they had because Black Panther's kind of invulnerable, so you could have had him actually get like kind of chopped up a bit and like jarred before like you had him escape from the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're like ding 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 ding, kind of like Iron Man in the propeller on the first Avengers.
Oh, right. Yep. I gotta say, this is another nitpick, and it's not about this film in particular, but it's about Scarlet Witch. I know that Olsen thought the traditional costume was way too risque and whatever, but I miss it. Like they don't even need to do, some cleavage bearing, leg showing thing because they've updated the uniform. Like I play a few mobile games on iOS, and one of them that I pop into every once in a while is Marvel Strike Force, and they've got Scarlet Witch in that game, and she's got pretty much the same traditional outfit, only they've covered like her collarbone area with like a black mesh type of material, and they've updated it. And so what she's wearing now, I mean, for example, in this movie, she's showing off more cleavage than anything that the current Black Widow, or not Black Widow, Scarlet Witch outfit would be. But I think I really just missed the headdress because we basically got a chick running around in a jacket, and I just find it really boring. It's like,
yeah, she looks like Phoenix. Actually, now that you're pointing out her suit, I never thought about it, but yeah, she looks like Phoenix too much. Maybe that's on purpose because Feige's been on Marvel Studios since the X-Men started. But yeah, no, I like this.
It kind of irks me too. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I like this scene here with like the chicks fighting because it's like I buy the scene where it's like, hey, let's let the girls fight and display that with. It doesn't feel cheap though, because you got like these girls that aren't probably good temperament with each other paired up like outside of a fight, but they're like all teamed up. They know the common enemy, and I bought it. Like it felt like I was aware of like this is like a little agenda driven perhaps. Like let's display just for the girls, but it didn't feel cheap as opposed to what we're expecting with Captain Marvel. And I can't wait to hear the bullshitters after this. I'll probably watch the bullshitters stream after this to see they're tearing it apart.
I love. I'm skipping ahead a few minutes here, but it just reminded me. I love when Thanos shows up and Hulk goes, "Hey Cap, that's him," and there's that realization, like, okay, this isn't another crony, like another goon. This is for real now. That moment's so intense. I just love that. From the moment he says, "Hey Cap, that's him," and the slow-mo could have been overdone, and because it easily happens in other films, and they did it the perfect amount, I thought, for the right dramatic effect.
See, I would have liked, just like kind of looking over this again, I would have liked if there was like a detachment, or even if it was like the chick guard of Black Panther, if there's like a group at first trying to like keep Thanos off or something, kind of like how in Lord of the Rings, you got Sauron going through like the ranks of people, where like it'd been good to see like an escalation that way as opposed to just him going through one by one. But even then, when he's like taking out everybody, a couple minutes in the ahead, um, that's another example of like he's not a cruel guy. Arguably, he's not a cruel guy because he could just snap everyone's neck or something. But he's like pats off Black Panther. He punches Captain America. He contains Scarlet Witch and Groot and whatnot, and Hulk.
Yeah, I think that was to give you intimacy in the battle, because we've had the big battle going on, and then you've had trying to get the gauntlet off, but that's not him with everybody. That's not the showdown everybody's waiting for. So when he finally shows up, I think they were transitioning from, we're not just going to have a bunch of CG people running around and shooting at each other now. Now we're actually going to show you an intimate battle. I think that's probably why they did it, but I get why you would want to see that for sure.
Yeah. Honestly, I would have cut the Wakanda and the Titan scenes. I would have cut them completely as their own scenes, as opposed to splitting them in half individually between each other. I would have just had the Wakanda battle, and then cut to Titan, and then cut to him coming to Wakanda, as opposed to like back and forth a couple times. But it worked. It works, but I think it would have flowed a little bit better if you would just like elongate each scene as opposed to splitting them.
Yeah, now we have instead of multiple Iron Man suits flying around, we got the multiple Doctor Stranges.
Yeah. Apparently the Russos were saying like the scene where they're like wrapping him up, all the Stranges, and he like pulls him back. That's like he almost knocked his soul out, and so that's why he had to like let himself get caught essentially right here.
Oh right, yeah, because he can kind of astral project and stuff if he needs to or whatever. I remember I haven't seen Doctor Strange the movie in a while, but I remember his spirit was outside of his body for a while and stuff. Makes sense. Yeah, going back to what you're saying about he could have been choking everybody, taking everybody out as he walked. Yeah, he's seen this struggle before. Like he gets it. He's not just maliciously, I'm gonna wipe you all out. He kind of feels sorry for everybody. He's kind of like, yeah, you don't understand what I'm doing. I'm doing this for the whole universe. It's beyond you. I get it. I've seen this struggle before. I sympathize that you're trying to save your planet and all this stuff, but ultimately, I'm right. So I'm just gonna have to sweep you aside, and if you do get in my way enough where I do have to kill you, I will. But yeah, I love that about the Thanos character.
Oh man, that scene right there where he like punches Iron Man, then he rips his helmet off, and you're like, "Oh fuck no!" Yeah.
And I love the drop of blood scene too, because it's more than just about the actions that Iron Man just went through to get that drop of blood. That's really what he's going through the past few movies since the Battle of New York. He's been fearing Thanos. He didn't know him by name yet, but he's been fearing this forever, and so he's gone through all this PTSD and all this stuff over the years, and all these struggles he's gone through, and now he's finally facing it. And then after all that, it's basically, yeah, you're not gonna get jack squat out of this. Sorry to tell you, buddy. So after all those years of struggle and pressure and stress, you just got a drop of blood. That just sums up Tony's whole plot in life here going on right now. Not just the physicality of him winding up just to get the drop.
Dude, when because for a while, a couple of movies, I was like, I kind of fell out of my love of Iron Man, just the way they built his story through the series, especially with Iron Man 3. I'm like, eh. But then, crap. But then, like, they got me back. I think in Civil War, and then this one where he stabbed him, was like, oh my god, like, is this happening? And then it's like, okay, they fix it. And that's another thing too. Okay, so when I always critique people when I was talking about Shuri, is like she's Mary Sue. Like, no one said this about. Like, I feel there's a bit too much oversight with her character because of like the politics of Black Panther outside of the movie. There's a bit too much oversight with her and critiquing her because everyone forgets about the nanotech to make his suit now, and the vision initially comes from the Korean chick in Ultron.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I hope she's. I would like to I would like them to bring her back just as another tech mind for
Hmm.
whatever they got planned.
Yeah, I forgot about her. I haven't seen Ultron in quite a while though, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
don't get
remember.
the people's like. See, I'm a guy like all the comic fans. They hate Ultron. They hate X-Men Apocalypse, and it's like I feel Apocalypse is like weak as a character in that movie, but I love the movie. I buy it, especially being a dad. Took my wife to see it when it came out, and I was like, "Oh my god, this blew me away." Um,
I'm glad you liked it. I found it to be weak overall. I liked parts of it, but
oh yeah, it's not as good as First Class or Days of Future Past. Like, there's
no,
definitely a
not at all.
quality drop off, but I feel like it's pretty close in my opinion. Still, it's like I'll take
I
a weekend villain performance if there's a good overall plot or character development. Uh, I guess the overall just the stupidity of Apocalypse is like, oh, what was it? I'll have to come back to that because there's some point where I'm like, wait, like why does he need four horsemen if you can just take everyone's powers? Like, why does he need bodyguards?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd watch Apocalypse over X3 or Wolverine Origins for sure, but I don't think it's a horrible movie. I just think it's a pretty big letdown from Days of Future Past.
Yeah. Oh, this is another character that kind of for me weakens the plot of Black Panthers because they have the five tribes unite, but then the Jabari go into the mountains. And kind of like how the Russian Orthodox or the Orthodox Church, they're they're in communion with the Catholic Church, but their essential quintessential beef is the Pope and the sanctity of it. And it's kind of the same argument with the Jabari. Like they don't pledge fealty to the Black Panther and the King, and so it's like, why would you let them stay in your country? Why wouldn't you exile them as opposed to just letting this potential uh, dissenter colony or tribe stay in your borders? That's another like, oh, that doesn't make sense. You're just manufacturing a plot at that point.
Oh, here we go. Thanos shows up. I love Elizabeth Olsen here, where she's like breathing. She can't catch her breath when she sees him and stuff. The reaction shots when he shows up are stellar. I think.
Yeah, it's one of my first videos was about how Avengers is now better than Star Wars, and I gave like 7 points. One of them is actually like a zero sum, so it's really 6 points. But I talk about how like uh, I'm comparing it to Star Wars, and I say like one thing is the villain's music. Like, there's not very many villain music like notes or productions that make you feel just as iconic as like Darth Vader and the Imperial March.
Yeah.
But even though it's not as rememberable still as that, I feel that Thanos actually has like something to match or to arguably match that with the every time he comes on screen, you hear that like dark, somber tone build up into this great piece.
Yeah, I agree completely. I remember back when the first Avengers came out, people were talking about how, the MCU doesn't have really great scores or anything. And I remember going, nah, the Avengers score is actually got a great theme, actually, I think. And then going to this movie, to your point, yeah, I agree completely. The music for this film in particular, the score, I think it's superb, really.
Yeah, I didn't. See, with this whole relationship of, I know Vision and Scarlet Witch have multiple stories of being like a couple and stuff, and having kids, but then they like retcon it where it's like it's all in her head or they were planted there in her mind, or it's different weird comic stuff like that. But I know there are a couple, but I bought I think in Ultron, or it might have been Civil War, I bought the chemistry, but
It was
then
Ultron, yeah.
it didn't develop for me to like buy into the relationship in this movie. But I buy the performances. It's kind of like with the whole Quill and Gamora thing. It's like they're they're really good at fooling you when you get to these key points, just like with Yondu, where it's like, oh, I'm not your father, but I'll always be your daddy, or whatever that line is. And it's like, oh, that hit me. But then you watch the whole movies again, you're like, wait a minute, I never felt that was his father figure.
Yeah, I can agree with that completely. Funny enough, Des felt exactly the same way about Scarlet Witch and Vision, like exactly that it wasn't quite earned. I'm fine with it. I think there's enough for me to be good with it, but he had the exact same opinion, so that's just interesting.
Yeah, that's just the problem that you have with movies. That's why I'm excited for. I'm not going to buy it, the Disney Plus, but I'm excited for the idea of Scarlet Witch Vision show because I think, especially with the Fox acquisition, that I'm not happy about. But looking at the positives, now you get the X-Men. Because I'm reading the House of M series, and the initial book House of M is about like Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and Magneto having this grand effect on the universe. And it's kind of watching comics explain. They said that's where they kind of define Scarlet Witch finally as a character and her powers. And essentially, what starts off that whole series for the story is that she kind of sets everything back from the way it starts, but she does away with mutants with her power, and so it makes Magneto just a guy and stuff, and it renders like the universe down to like less than 200 mutants and stuff, and there's kind of like this whole Children of Men plot. So I would like them to they would have time to do that in a show to tie back into the series, and then you could bring in the X-Men and not have to do all these fourth, fifth wave origin stories to like bog down the progression.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think just thinking of X-Men here, I think when they do hit the MCU, I think the best way, and I think this is what they'll end up doing, to recast Wolverine, because that's going to be tough. They need to go full on, like however tall he is, 5'2", little stocky dude that's just, and go full on Harry and all that. I think that's what they'll end up doing, because before Hugh Jackman was so well loved in the role, that was a big complaint back in, because I saw X-Men like when it was brand new in the theater, and I was just the right age for it to hit I'm the demographic they're looking for and all that. And I remember at the time that there was quite a bit of backlash for Hugh Jackman being too tall. He's not angry enough. He's all this stuff from these diehard X-Men fans. And I didn't have that because I wasn't a diehard X-Men guy or anything at the time. And so I think that's what they're going to end up doing, because how can you replace a legend like that now? He's become he's become iconic in that role. But I think that'll be interesting if they decide to do that. I think it's the smart thing to do, is just go full on Zack Snyder style, rip it right out of the comic book, like, inch for inch, color for color, whatever. Attitude for attitude. I think that's the way they'll go, to make it a little different, but then it's not different technically because it's based right out of the original vision for him in the comics.
Yeah, I got Thor. I like how they said that, because you're just like, oh god, he's got the last stone, then boom, Thor just fucking shocks his ass.
And yep. This is played perfectly, because you think, oh, well, okay, well, Vision's gone, but he's still not going to win. Too bad. And then the rug gets pulled out again. From the audience.
What they did, because I was in a film history class, and there's like since like the 1910s, I think they've had this trope in action movies, the last second save. And so like being aware of that, watching this after already seeing it multiple times, this is the last second save subverted for the audience, because like the comic book fans, they know to some degree what the story is going to unfold into, and that he completes it, and then that's the rest of the story is going to be unraveling that problem. But yeah, like if you ever see my intros, the last scene is the snap. It's because I love Thanos, but I didn't know what scene to use, so I thought the snap would be perfect. And so then when I do my lady intro with all the hot girls, I have that girl doing the cosplay makeup as Thanos. So that's why I use that.
Yeah, scene. I definitely remember that part of your opening. Yes.
I got a new one planned for. If I have enough time, I'm going to make a new one with a new song for fighting with my family. So this scene here where he's talking to Gamora, apparently in the Q&A a few months ago, the Russo said that he's like able to commune with Gamora in the Soul Stone. So there is a sense of living for all these characters that have been dusted.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is my least favorite stuff in the film. I'm not saying it should be removed. The flashbacks with Gamora. I'm not saying should be removed. I understand exactly why it's in the film. I do think it's needed. I'm just saying it from a pure enjoyment factor. It's when I kind of go, okay, let's move on. I'm ready for the next scene. If I had to pick anything that it doesn't bore me, but I think it definitely is toward that direction. But
it's a little jarring. It's nowhere near as bad, but it's jarring, like the Flash scene in BVS, where it's like, if you don't know the comics, you don't know what the hell that is. Like I had some sort of knowledge or awareness of like the Flash paradox or whatever, Flashpoint, but even to me, having a little bit of knowledge, I'm like, that's weird. And so I think the weirdest thing for people to buy that scene and why it's kind of cryptic is that they show Child Gamora, so it's like his projection in his mind of like his little girl that he found on
Right.
her planet, as opposed to Zeldana.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to have her anyway because then you might start getting the audience thinking, "Well, wait, is she still alive?" When it's the little girl, you automatically know, "Oh, this is some kind of memory imprint or something," even if it's not explained to you, and that doesn't end up being 100% correct. Maybe in the film, it doesn't matter. It works for this film. Yeah, this was great too because they're right in tune with the audience right now. Because the audience this first time is going, "What? What's happening?" I mean, I understood that half the universe was disappearing, but you're still there with these characters. I feel like we're all in the same shoes right now, watching these people disappear because we don't know exactly what's going on. Not quite. We have a
uh,
pretty good idea, obviously, but
I
yeah,
think I think Groot is the second worst death in this sequence, and we're about to get to the worst one. I think they knew too which ones would resonate, so they like escalated it. Because Winter Soldier, it's like, he was like an assassin for the Russians, whatever. So it's kind of like you don't really like unless you like him as a character in the comics. Like I don't think you like gravitate to him as a character. Like he hasn't really developed emotionally to like invest in yet. Um,
not as much as the others. I can say that. Yeah.
yeah, there's something there with Cap, but it's like it hasn't been fleshed out completely, so it's like it's a little underwhelming. So I'm fine with him being the first death, and like Black Panther works because he just had his first movie like 2 months before this came out, and then uh, I was surprised they did all the Guardians besides
Yeah, I was
Rocket.
surprised Quill went. That was the one I was like, "Oh, Quill's gonna go too." I wasn't expecting that. Parker's the best one, I think, though. I can't
Oh
help.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
you feel it. You don't have to. I mean, I am a father. I have a son, but you don't have to be a father to feel what Tony's feeling. It's just anybody where you have a bond, or from Peter's perspective, where you respect and or admire and look up to the other person and have them being stripped away from you without you knowing why this is happening. It's heartbreaking. I love this whole scene. It's so well done.
yeah, like in the first Spider-Man that they did in the MCU, I didn't buy the progression with like where he finally breaks the building off of himself to like escape and continue the plot. Where it's like that's like a key moment of his progression. It's like, I already expected it. We still got like 20 minutes to go. But this here, it's like, yeah, the Russos. That's what I'm saying. They get the best out of everyone. Um, you know,
Yeah, when he's saying "Don't let me go, don't let me go" or whatever it is he's saying when he's holding on to him, that's just absolutely heartbreaking.
Nebula's just like this robot. It's like he did it.
Yeah. Yeah, she's still around. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with her. She's a really cool character, so I'm glad it looks like we're gonna get more of her in Endgame.
Dude, you know what's funny is because like I don't find her sexually appealing. Like I know there's like some weird people are into like robot chicks or whatever. I watched a whole like
Right.
documentary on Netflix about it. Um, but yeah, I don't get that at all. But I've never found Nebula appealing sexually at all. I know, but then I found out she's the Jumanji 2 chick, and I'm like, that's her. Oh my
Yeah, me
god!
too. Yeah.
Wow. Now
Me
I'm kind
too.
of okay. I can kind of transpose that real life her onto Nebula. Like, all right, there might be something here, but yeah, like Alita, she's actually a cyborg with like just a robot body. I think she's hotter than Nebula. Oh, dude, this scene here. When I saw this the first time, I was like, "Oh my god, is this the Game of Thrones composer?" Because that's music here.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the best moments in the film, and it's good that I mean, it's the ending because a lot of times you don't get a good ending in some of these films. I'm thinking like Iron Man, the first one, great film, but then the ending is kind of pretty weak. Where
I
yeah,
am Iron Man.
this is one of the best parts in the film. So yeah, it ends on a great note.
So yeah, so many people were shocked, of course, because a lot of people don't know the comics, and this is like a mass audience thing. But so many people were shocked, like that's the end. And I'm like, this is amazing. I love
Yeah,
this. This is the Empire
yep,
Strikes Back. Um,
exactly.
and that little
Yeah,
smirk he has, where it's like it's not
yep,
malicious. It's just like mission accomplished. I
yep.
did my task. I can be
Satisfaction.
at
Yep.
peace. And he did what he set out to do because he's the only one willing to sacrifice to do it. Um,
Yeah,
and I think that's an interesting story, because most of these comic stories are kind of, very easy black and white morality, but his is so gray and on the line in certain aspects at least, and for him to be to win that way, and to with that whole kind of philosophy of sacrifice behind him, and being the only one that is willing to do that, I think that oh crap, I paused it. I forgot we have end credit scenes.
Yeah, I turned it off and I'm fast forwarding now because I just thought the same thing.
Dude,
I can't remember.
it's funny too, because you're waiting like, when is the end credit scene going to happen, and they show like the Avengers Infinity War and just dusts, and it's like, oh, way to like add insult to injury.
Oh, that's right. It's the Captain Marvel scene. Duh. Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember what it was. Like I knew there was one at the end, but it wasn't that impactful, obviously. So I forgot.
Yeah, so I'm actually got my thing on it now. It's going through the Technicolor, the last little bits of credits.
Yeah, I'm on multiple bogeys over Wakanda. They're talking Fury and her talking in the car right now.
Yeah, I forgot all about Hill after the first Avengers.
Yeah, not the most exciting character or anything. Not a bad character either, but not anybody that sticks out. But yeah, when Des and I actually saw this movie together, which we don't usually watch movies together, so it was kind of a cool thing. We went to go see this, and so it was a packed theater, and the ending when Thanos wins and the credits roll, it was just silence in the theater. It was just kind of a shock and awe kind of, and it wasn't a bad thing. I didn't feel like a bad vibe, like people didn't like it, but it was like, what the hell? I was not expecting it to end that way. And of course I didn't know how it was going to end, just like anybody else, but I definitely wasn't expecting the Avengers to conquer over Thanos in this movie, because I already obviously knew there was another one coming out. But yeah, that ending was definitely unexpected and took the audience that we were with by surprise for sure.
I was just thinking, I haven't ever came to this conclusion, so this is like a raw in the moment conclusion, but what makes this scene, of course we know Captain Marvel and all the PR with it now, and I don't think there's really any hype when we saw this initially if you knew who the symbol was, but this whole sequence is unnerving because you're actually seeing, outside of your main character, seeing just the world having this effect happen to him, and the shock and awe. And this is actually unsettling a bit, because 9/11, like the ash across that whole event and stuff, and all the footage from people, like when the towers actually came down, it's like, I wonder how much of that they like watch to kind of get how to dust people, and it's like, it just adds another layer to it. Especially me being an Afghan vet, because I have like conflicting views or opinions about being a veteran of a war where 90+% of people don't know any reason why you're over there, because they're just simple folk. They're not retarded or anything. They're very technologically unadvanced, besides some cell phones. Like, they're not tuned in per se to Facebook or anything in the mass world media. They're, especially where I was, at least. Maybe some of the cities they might be, but where I was, it was just pure country farming. Might have a cell phone, might have a motorcycle or a van for a big group of people. So yeah, it's kind of weird actually thinking of 9/11 with the Avengers 3 with that dusting sequence, because it's like, fuck, that's
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they.
That's why I went over there, is because of 9/11, and then you've seen the sequence that's like reminiscent to some degree of that. It's like, oh, that makes it even more meta and creepy.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, any last thoughts before we head out?
No, I like this movie. I guess other than this, I mean, this movie, I like it more every time. Some movies you have just the opposite reaction. This, I love that each time I find something new to like, even if I do find another nitpick, probably every time I watch it too, it never is enough to supersede anything. I honestly think this is one of the best superhero movies ever made. And Superman, you got to remember, Donner's Superman is in my top 5 for sure. So my tastes kind of vary all over the place, but I think this one, there's just something special about this movie. And I guess it could be argued that part of that is because it had all this stuff leading up to it and it's not on its own merits. But I would argue against that, going, well, yeah, that is part of it, and it should be part of it, and there's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I really love this movie, and I appreciate you wanting to do this. This was fun.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I couldn't market it more. Just kind of like through PO's stream yesterday, it was just kind of like a knee jerk, like, hey, let's actually like weaponize this fund drive and actually incentivize people with his charity, so it's bigger than just, hey, let's make a joke out of sending 3PO to see Captain Marvel.
Yeah, that was a great idea, man. The whole thing was great. Yeah, I really like
It
it.
was so fun, dude. It kind of got weird at the end because I was talking about Salvador. I met him from the veteran stream last year on the Bullshitters, and so we've been following each other for a while now, and we're talking about how like it's funny that the Air Force is marketing themselves with Captain Marvel, and how it's like that's like the Pussy League branch of the Air Force for various reasons. And then I was talking about like military standards about men and women. So I got on like the trans topic, just as far as like the biology of standards for men versus women, and how it's like a cheat if men become women in the military. And so that's why I like Trump's decision. It's not about the rights argument. It's about in the military, like you're electing to be here, you know? So yeah, it's like total drop off. Like we're at like pretty much about 15 to 20 the whole time, maybe 30 at times. And then it's like drop off to like single digits for a little bit before we signed out. But I think also is like EVS was streaming, Mary was streaming, and then she went on Ricky's stream at the end for Kill Bill 2. So multiple factors, but that definitely was like, there's people in fandom in general that like they just want to escape. And I think both sides of the political spectrum with these topics, there's a good chunk that are just like, I don't care either way, whatever my politics are. It's like, I just want to watch entertainment, I think there's a lot more in common with the SJW side than we give credit to some degree, at least.
It should be about the escape, man. And I have no problem with injecting politics into things if you're doing it the right way and you're letting the audience decide. That's the big deal for me is don't tell me how to feel. Present the argument and let it stand on its own merits, and that's how it should work. And good movies and good entertainment is done that way, even when it is trying to be political or religious or hit heavy topics that you may not want in an escape. It just needs to be done right, and there is a measurable way to do it right versus wrong, and we're seeing it done wrong left and right now, and it just sucks.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that we could all get this together for short notice. People, he kind of hinted at it earlier, but do check out those two ball guys. They actually have a contained review, about 25 minutes I saw on their channel. I will update this and put their link in here. We had the hiccup with my live stream not showing up to anybody initially, so that's why we did the second take.
Yeah.
Do go check out the first one though. You kind of get a background to us going to this movie initially and our mindset. I was thinking about boycotting this movie before I saw spoilers about it, and then I was like, I have to see this, and I ended up seeing it 4 times. But yeah, my call for people to boycott Disney has gone back since at least April. Before the Solo craze for like Geeks and Gamers and company. So it's kind of funny that, I haven't thought about that in a while. I was like, yeah, I almost boycotted this movie, at least in theaters.
I'm glad you did, man.
Yeah, I would have eventually bought it on eBay at least, but yeah, I'm glad I experienced it because it was an event. It's something that I think 10, 20 years from now, like it's something that we'll talk about when we come across this movie and be like, yeah, like you don't know what movie experience is like. Theaters may be gone by then. So this is, I really, when I took a friend to see this the 3rd time, he kind of likes Marvel, but he's not like devoted or anything to any like franchises. And we were talking about stuff, and he's what inspired my philosophy of Thanos video about comparing like God as a character to Thanos as a godlike character. Because he's like, do you think he was evil? And I'm like, no, evil is like a perception, etc. That's what built it. But I remember I was like, this is the death of cinema. And it's crazy because Wisecrack actually did a stream about Avengers, and they talked about that. They're like, this was a great monument to a series that, it's just, dumb American mythology that's been built in something bigger. And they're like, this is definitely, they echoed what I said, the death of cinema, that this is such a pinnacle of an achievement that this is what's going to we're already seeing it, but this is like for sure dictating mass media in theaters, and it'll kill things from being even created, like Taxi Driver or Drive or Godfather, just like quiet, very human movies. Even if it's like sci-fi stuff, it's really like Blade Runner or something. Blade Runner didn't do great with its sequel in theater, and the first one didn't do great either. Movies like this disincentivize studios from even risking it. That's why they're doing the
Bummer.
Godzilla universe, and they try and do the the monster verse for bringing back the Universal characters and stuff. Like, it's a bittersweet thing because I love this movie so much, but I really feel this is going to be something, maybe even if it takes 50 years for theaters to actually die out. I think this will be a key point where it's like you look at Avengers and you look at how every studio is looking at if they make $1 billion or how close they get to $1 billion, as opposed to just like, hey, we made like 2-3 times our budget. That's good enough. And I feel this will be a marquee moment where it's like, yeah, Avengers, they killed the theaters chains.
It's hard to argue that against that. Yeah. So yeah, so I won't.
But yeah, that sorry to end on a dull note, but it kind of fits with the ending of Avengers. And of course, like I said, you can check out that initial 13-minute stream to kind of get our mindset going into this movie. But yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you for the people that stay with us. I know the bullshitters just streamed. I'm going to check that out now. At least part of it before I go to sleep. Thank you, Jay. And go check out those two ball guys. If they didn't cross 100, they're at 99 last I checked. So let's get them to 100. Let's get them that triple digit to really get them motivated. Because once you get that triple digit, that really makes you feel like this can work. So I'm hoping you get there tonight.
Me too.
Yeah, thank you all for joining. And in the future, I'm not sure what other movies I'll do or who I'll stream with, but one I do have planned someday as a goal is Kung Pao Enter the Fist. If you have that, or if it's at your library, hit me up and we'll plan a stream for that. Even if we have to rotate people in or something, because that's a fun movie. So good night, everyone, and take care.